Questions only this AM, live from Jerusalem. I have a cup of coffee. Oh, still a bit too hot. Let's see, do I have audio? Do I have video? Okay, commercials. No, yeah, I want this to be a new questions only. So, nothing about Jesus, likely, unless it's specific and new. Nothing about Palestine, unless it's specific and new. No questions on whether or not I'm homeless, unless, again, it's specific and new, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's see. Specific and new. Yes. I don't know if I said it, but good morning, it's the Nazarite, bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. And I have a feeling that this is going to be a good one, or so I hope. So I hope. Um, all right, so before I get into your questions, Og Jake said, beautiful, great to see and hear the words of Zechariah affirmed, because I just did a part 2 on Israel, kids, family culture, and the connection between them, and between the past and the future, and between tradition and duty, and so on. It is indeed great. Queen Letitia said, greetings and salutations. Do you happen to know the opinions of Jewish scholars as it pertains to recreational cannabis use? So once again, for mentioning cannabis, stay safe, harm reduction, and respect the herb, respect the body, respect your mind, set and setting. Okay? Now, she says, I'm specifically asking about recreational versus medicinal things in advance. So first of all, medicinal things are permissible. Medicinal herbs are permissible. And as for smoking it specifically, she didn't ask about smoking. She said recreational versus medicinal. Recreational use, depending on which halachic scholar you go by or go to, would be encouraged or discouraged. And when I say encouraged, maybe sometimes even tolerated, maybe sometimes downright encouraged. It all becomes a question of how do you treat it? What lens do you see the cannabis through? As I always say, the aim is to be a high-functioning stoner and not a low-functioning pothead. In other words, if you're going to use it medicinally, do it in measure. If you're going to do it recreationally, do it in measure. Discernment and caution are paramount because even though it's not physically addictive in the sense of other drugs are, it is psychologically addictive. And the medicinal use is very welcome, I think, halachically speaking, more so than any recreational use, because the recreational use is associated with, well, negative things. However, we know that smoking cigarettes, smoking a pipe, smoking a cigar with tobacco is something that is indeed done and tolerated, if not encouraged. And I would think that it depends on the Jewish scholar that you go by. Some would say that all psychoactive substances from the onset in and of themselves are forbidden by halacha. And others would say, no, 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 this is an organic plant, it just grows like that. And so I would think that recreational versus medicinal would be swinging heavily towards the medicinal approval and tolerating, if not encouraging, the recreational use. And as it pertains to you being able to function and you being with it and not it controlling you and you not having your life revolve around it if it is recreational, as I've said before. Though I'm not a scholar, so you'd have to do some more research. Okay. Bodacious and Real Jack Matt are here. Josh Chavers is here. Rebar is here. Ian is here. Hey, Josh G is here. Lovely. And Jake Matthew. Hello. Okay, let's go. When are you bringing back the unhinged thumbnails? Oh, I mean, I just go with whatever, whether it's the colors or whether it's the, I mean, do you have a specific example you'd want me to follow? I'll gladly do all kinds of unhinged thumbnails, you know. People have such an issue with thumbnails and YouTube, and you know, you got to get the title right, you got to get the description right, you got to get the thumbnail right. And it's true if you're producing videos, but I'm not producing videos, I'm just having conversations live. So I have that advantage. It's a whole other sort of broadcasting, it's a whole other sort of YouTube journey. Josh says, think I maybe saw a video of your dad maybe blessing or teaching. You looked really cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Was this in a vision? Was it in a dream? Was it online? Because I don't think such a video is circulating online. I have lost my faith in man, says Rebar. You know what? I don't blame you, but there are always, right? As much as there is wickedness, malevolence, and negativity in the world, there is the counterforce of the good. And I think that if you lost your faith in man, make it a real effort, like a concise effort, a part of your goal to reestablish faith in humanity. It starts with yourself and it spreads to those around you and the things you consume. If the things you consume, let's say media, things you hear, things you see, things you experience, if they're causing you to lose your faith in man and humanity and mankind, then go the other way and force feed yourself to some degree the happy things, the cat videos, and the, although that's faith in cats, people treating cats right, babies, right? All those videos of babies laughing, that unbridled, passionate laughter, times when people are helping each other, even in the smaller things in life, especially in the smaller everyday things in life. That can help restore your faith, I believe. And humanity, despite all of its faults and frailties and shortcomings, is worth having faith in. That human spirit, be it a human spirit as far as evolution has imbibed us with, or be it a human spirit that was the breath of life, the divine revelation of the breath of life that was put into creation, the human creation. Hope you're well, bro, says Ian. I am well, thank God. And how are you? Jake said, everybody laid out of work on me again, second time this week. Do you mean laid out of work? Do you mean not showing up? Do you mean calling in sick? I'm not sure what you mean. If it's the second time this week, I'm assuming you don't mean laid off. That doesn't happen twice a week. God isn't real with a caveat, says Josh G. I agree. Are you a Jew? Sorry, that's not a new question. You could draw your own conclusions. Let's see. Coconut water, Simon Coke, and a water LOL inside. Not sure what you mean, my man. It's going right over my head. Guess it wasn't your dad, he said. Maybe someone just saying something cool to you. Maybe. You guys might be hating, but this guy is one of many that will get 1,000 slaves. I don't buy that for a second. I don't go with that. Humanity will be free to worship the Most High God. Why do settlers steal home and kill animals? Again, that's not a new question. Sorry, you'll have to refer to previous live streams. I've addressed that before. Good morning. Would you consider running a book club, Brothers Karamazov? Wow, no, I don't think I'd run a book club, because I think to run a book club, you could lead a book club. To run it, I think it would be, maybe it's just semantics, but I think that it would be, no, I don't think so. I think I'm not knowledgeable enough, not versed enough in literature, certainly not classic Russian literature, or any other literature for that matter, to be able to run a book club and give insights. I don't think so. Did you ever face hard times? Yes, I have, Kunal. Yes, I have. Now, hard times are individual and subjective, but yes, I have. There have been times in my life where I was hiding under the blanket in the middle of the day, not wanting to face the reality that I have brought upon myself with my laziness or procrastination or lack of attention or, sinning and iniquity. Still a little too hot. So yes, hard times financially, times when I was unemployed, times when I had to borrow money. So yes, definitely yes, I've known hard times subjectively, relatively speaking, right to my experience. What do you think about billionaires? That they have currency in the billions. That's what I think of billionaires. I hope you said cinnamon and not pot roast. No, I've roasted pot, and I've had pot roast, but no, I no longer partake of any animal products, so I did say cinnamon. Yes, I did. Cleanliness is next to godliness, says Josh. Yes, indeed, so they say. You're going to get history to repeat itself like you did in the World War. You guys created it. Again, that's not a question. I'm going to just keep going. Was that yesterday, says Septimus Fortune? Was that yesterday? Speaking of which, what did you people think of the movie Yesterday, if you have seen it? Some people say it's real untapped potential. I feel that way about the movie The Invention of Lying, Ricky Gervais. I felt that the potential and the premise were unbelievable, and the movie didn't take full advantage of the premise. People say that about the movie Yesterday, right? The dude wakes up and the Beatles never existed, and he's the only one, and he recreates. Except for a couple. There's a couple there that does remember the Beatles. I don't exactly know what that was to put them in there. It's a curious choice by the screenwriter. Are you... Oh, I'm sorry, the chat jumped. The chat jumped. Hang on a second. Are you guys going to build a third temple? Again, that's not a new question. It's been asked. What's a Hebrew Nazarite? Likewise, look it up. It's been asked. Shalom, how many sons of King David you can name? Oof, he had so many. But no, I can't do too many. I mean, the ones that come to mind are Shlomo, Adoniah, Hagit, Amnon. Um, who else was a contender for the throne? Was there a Sraya? I don't recall. A few more might come to mind. Those are the ones that come offhand. Why are you dressed fancy today? No reason, Ryado. I felt like it. I put my hair in a bun to shower right now, and then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna throw on a button down and a jacket because I've done it before. Because I decided in the shower, I had a shower thought. I'm gonna do only new questions today, and so to emphasize the pristine and lovely nature of newness, I decided to do something new, which is not 100% new, but I don't think I ever wore this particular combination of black button down and the jacket, and so it's new in that sense. It's also new in the sense that creation is regenerating itself each and every nanosecond. That's why he completely ignores me, because he doesn't even want to get into it. Yeah, sure thing. If you were to ask him why his country is actively using America, he would just sit there and smile. Yeah, sure thing. Sure thing. That's not a question. Terrorism, Palestine also, I've been asked this before. Why do you dislike Netanyahu's government? Do you view him as an ineffective leader? That's somewhat new. I'll address that one. Why do I dislike Netanyahu's government? Because I think he overstayed his welcome, let's say. I think that new blood is needed, if only to rejuvenate the government and the administration. It may be old new blood of somebody who hasn't been on the throne for a while and is making a comeback. It might be a new sort of party, a new sort of leader, a new sort of literally someone who's never been there. I know Bennett, I think, is running. He's been prime minister. But again, if I read the platforms and I see the candidates and I hear what they have to say and I try to screen out the bullshit, which is a plenty, maybe I'll vote. I'll actually vote after not voting for 20 years. Do you view him as an ineffective leader? I don't know enough about the politics. I think he's a wonderful politician in the sense that he's stayed in power for such a long time. I'm sure he is a very shrewd and calculating individual. I'm sure he has his hands in a lot of proverbial pies of different sorts, and that he knows people who knows people, and he just knows people. Knows people who know people. Do you view him as an ineffective leader? Far be it from me to say if he's ineffective. So many things go behind the scenes. So many things are unreported. So many things are censored. For me to say he's an ineffective leader, that would be me swinging like way above my pay grade. So I'm going to say that, as far as I can tell, he has caused, with his actions, lack of action, I don't know what, lack of decisiveness, I don't know what it was, I really don't. He has caused such a split in the people of Israel. Now, this is not to say that the people of Israel have never been split, but this is something that I think no other administration has seen, these weekly, almost daily demonstrations of thousands and thousands of people against him and against what he is doing to the country, while there have always been times when the race in the election was a tight one, a narrow one, I think that in the last few years, and that's partly why Hamas took advantage at the time they took advantage on October 7th, because they saw that Israel was a little bit, in shambles as the people, and it's having to do with the judicial reform, having to do with different things. So I don't know if he's an ineffective leader or not. I know that things need to change. Maybe it's not him who will bring about that change. Maybe he needs to go. Let's continue. Was King David a royal born? Well, he was born to the house of Yishai. His father was Yishai. Yishai had many sons, right? 6 or 7 sons. He was the youngest. Born into royalty in the sense that the kingdom of Judah is said to have a royal quality because of what Judah himself, son of Jacob, did, the way he behaved, right? With the story of Tamar, the Joseph, and selling him to Joseph, later on defending Benjamin in Egypt, right? And he said, take me, send him home. So in that sense, there was something regal or royal about the tribe of Judah. Then again, there's something regal and royal about the tribes of Israel at large, and humanity as such, right? We are the crown of creation, they say, or at least the potential of holding that title of crown of creation, made in the image of God, that whole thing. So was King David royal born? all humanity is potentially, all the tribes of Israel are potentially, and the house of Yishai of the tribe of Judah more so because of who and what King David was, right? The warrior poet, the one who went astray but was able to atone, who took responsibility, the one who was not perfect, the one who endured so much, so much. Okay, let's continue. Scrolling down in the chat. How are you doing today? Well, that's not a new question, but I'll field it anyway. I'm doing great, man. Yassin Daoud. Salam alaikum. Okay, let's continue. Jonathan sounds like Jonathan. Yes, that's the English version of the name. No. Bro, who's the greatest rabbi in Jewish history? Moses. Moshe. That's why he's called Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our master. Moses was the great bridge between worlds. The greatest rabbi in Jewish history was Moses in the sense that he had a higher revelation, a unique revelation. He's a once in creation. And in that sense, we're not supposed to be shooting to be Moses. Moses teaches us that we are supposed to be shooting to be us. Right? Zusha Avanipoli very famously said, Reb Zusha, a few hundred years ago, a couple of hundred years ago, he said, when I die, I don't fear that I would be asked, why weren't you Moses? Or something like that. He said, I fear that I would be asked, Zusha, why weren't you Zusha? You look very smart today. Love on the threads. Have a great day. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Moses studied in Egypt where he learned magic. Yes, he was exposed to the Egyptian pantheon and the Egyptian worship and the Egyptian rituals, I'm sure. If you could visit any country in the world, which would it be and why? I don't know. I have some sort of a thing with seeing Machu Picchu. I don't even know why. I really don't. But something about it is something, you know what? I don't have much of a bucket list in travel. I don't like traveling. I don't have an itch to go travel or see places, experience cultures. It's just not my thing. I don't have the bug. But Machu Picchu, for some reason, I want to see it. That's it. You think rabbis are above God? No, I do not. Not at all. However, if we're talking about the oral traditions, lo b'shamayim, it is not in the heavens. It is not across the great sea. It's not in the sky. That's what Moses tells the children of Israel. It's in your heart and in your mouth to do, to perform, to carry out. The oral traditions are supposed to evolve and progress and maintain an evolution, right? And an advancement throughout the ages and the generations and now that has become stifled because of exile, because of the fact that the oral traditions were written down. However, the idea of halacha, the idea of the sages, the idea of the rabbis, the proper sages with the laying of the hands and all, not the ones who are now ruling on halacha, who are called rabbis, but I'm saying the proper rabbis of old, that will be renewed as well, right? The laying of the hands. Are they above God? No, they are not above God. I don't know God. All I know is how God reveals himself to me. Part of that revelation is in the written Torah. Part of that revelation is in the oral Torah. And in that sense, while they are not above God, we are co-creators, made in the image of God. And halacha was given by people for people. And it's the people who need to keep updating it. It's the people who need to progress with it. It's the people who need to abide by it. It's the people who need to have a consensus, or else that regulation or law or prohibition will not pass and will not stand. This is what the Sanhedrin is about. This is what the sages were about when they put certain things in place or did things differently, not because they are above God, but because God gave dominion to humanity over all creation. And God gave the children of Israel the authority and the stewardship of the tradition insofar as the oral Torah is considered. And it's not supposed to be stifled. It's not supposed to be stagnant. It's not supposed to be written. It's supposed to remain oral. That's part of the problem, but it was the lesser of all evils at the time, so they say. Just on a philosophical level, what do you believe about the teachings of Jesus Christ versus Moses, Abraham, Isaac? Genuinely curious. Just on a philosophical level, I think they share the same philosophy. I think Abraham, Isaac, Moses, and Jesus were saying basically the same thing. Find out who you truly are, be all that you can be, carve out a path for yourself, and walk before God humbly and righteously, right? Don't go to extremes, but know when to do so. And Abraham, right, is considered to be the right side. Isaac is considered to be the left side. Moses is considered to be of the higher middle pillar. It's this harmonious thing that is here. The teachings of Jesus Christ, I read the New Testament once, and I loved the gospel very much, the rest not so much. So on a philosophical level, I think they're all speaking of the same thing, somewhat a little differently, depending on the revelation, the precise revelation that they received, right? Moses, Abraham, and Isaac received spirit of prophecy. Jesus likely was speaking with what's called Ruach HaKodesh, which was a lower form of prophecy, since the spirit of prophecy at that time of the Second Temple was already taken away from Israel. Do you morally believe based on the religious text you believe? Is Jesus in hell or heaven? Again, I've answered this before. I'm not going to field it again. Let's continue. Do you know that Christians are actually chosen people in the New Testament? Yes, I do know that that's what they say. Let's go. I feel the same way about Machu Picchu. How strange you said that. Really, something about it calls to me, stirs me. I don't even know why. I really don't. I really don't. Did high priest held power like monarch in ancient times? No, the high priest is not a king. The king has certain powers and authority and responsibilities and duties, and the high priest has very different ones. So he was not like a monarch. Did he have influence? No doubt. But no, he was there for a completely different purpose. The high priest represents the emanation called Chokhmah, the higher masculine, and the kingdom, the kingship, the monarch, the king represents Malchut, which is the lower feminine. Think of it as a father and daughter relationship, so to speak. And not that it's power over the king, but that it's that sort of revelation that is embodied in the high priest and the king of Israel. Let's continue. Hey, HN. Hey, Helmholtz. Do you think historically white European countries will become a non-white, non-European due to mass migration in the near future? Is this good or bad? What if Israel became non-Jewish? Well, historically white countries, if they keep letting people in, and those people eventually enforce or are voted into office and then enforce due to their demography, right, and their boom in population, whereas the other population is lessening, within a few generations, you just might have a majority people who have not integrated or assimilated themselves culturally, psychologically. I'm not going to say theologically, by all means, freedom of religion, freedom of worship, all that, but in some things you would have to adhere to the place that you have arrived at. And if you're going to migrate to a place and then enforce the laws and the rules and the regulations from which you were running, what did you do with that? You simply made another place that you would want people to flee from later on. If you're not going to accept, at least to a very large degree, to a great extent, the laws and the regulations of the kingdom, nation, state, country that you are in right now, then what you will have is eventually you'll get people elected into office. They will make new rules and new laws, right, with the strength in numbers that they have, and that country will effectively be done. Is it in the near future? No idea. Is it good or bad? Time will tell. What if Israel became non-Jewish? For a lot of time, Israel was not a majority Jew, majority Israeli, majority Hebrew. So if Israel became non-Jewish, that's fine to some degree, as long as we are still allowed to practice our faith and ritual worship in the sense that if there is a temple, if there's no temple, whatever it may be. Let's continue. Oh, sorry, the chat jumped again. Let's continue. Oh man. Wow, a lot of things in the chat. I hope it's new questions. I'm just scrolling up. Hang on a second. Wow. Okay, I can't find where I was. I'm sorry. I'm just going to keep going. The rabbis are experts in the book. Okay. Why do Hasidics wear long, cool coats in 90-degree weather, says Jade Pastor. Weather and steal everything in Walmart or small shops. So there's no Walmart in Israel, and I haven't seen Haredi people abroad steal anything, so I can't answer to that. You'll have to address that yourself. As for why do Hasidic, and not just Hasidic, Litvish people too, Yeshivish people too, long wool coats in 90-degree weather, The first part I can answer or address, it's because they consider that, first of all, there is no such thing, that's not Jewish garb. That's 17th century or early 18th century European nobility garb. That's what that is. It's not Jewish in any way, shape, or form. Jewish people wore a galabia, Jewish people wore a sudra, Hebrew people wore, things that are more flowing. And not this. This is what Haredis wear nowadays, right? The dark and the hat and the jacket. That's old school aristocratic, perhaps, European nobility, and that is why they wear that. And it has come to represent a kind of uniform, if you will, to them. That is how we behave. That is what we do, and this is how we dress. That's why they wear long wool coats in 90-degree weather. Let's continue. Let's see. Difference between House of Israel and Israelites. There is none. Maybe people call themselves Israelites who are not of the House of Israel, and that may be fine, whatever. But House of Israel is the Israelites. That's literally the same thing. Let's continue. Do you believe or practice the teachings of the Kabbalah? Again, I've addressed this before many times. You can keep all your fake bots. What fake bots? It's people here. What bots are going to be here? It's a small channel. Only 87 people are here right now. I'm using bots. Are you insane? You want to report me for bot use? You go right ahead. Whatever makes you feel good, whatever helps you sleep at night. Ay. Some people. Let's see. What is this thing? It's me. Hello, Tedbud Whisperer. There's freedom of religion in Israel. Yes, there is, although there is, maybe it's not 100%. I know there's some regulation, maybe it's only municipal, against proselytizing, or maybe it's in certain areas. I know there is something about proselytizing in Israel. There are some stipulations in the law. Maybe they're only local, maybe they're national. I don't recall. I'm ignorant. But I think there is something to do with proselytizing. Other than that, yes, freedom of religion exists in Israel. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu. Melech haolam shakol yeh b'dvaro. Okay. Let's continue. No. Let's see. More questions. Again, since I addressed homosexuality in the Torah and in Judaism and in Israel many, many times, you'll have to go see it. Somewhere else on a different live stream. Let's continue. Is Levi great-grandfather of Moses? Yes, he is. Right? Moses, the son of Amram. Amram is the son of Kehat. Kehat is the son of Levi. Levi is the son of Jacob. Right? How it's possible in the span of 400 years? That's how. That's literally how. Wait, great-grandfather? Moshe, Amram, Kehat, Levi. Yes, that's right, great-grandfather. Are you a speed reader? No, not really. I suppose I can read maybe speedily, but I'm not a speed reader. I like that. That's a good question. Let's continue. Scrolling down. No. You clean up well, sir. Thanks. I appreciate that. People, all of you who think that there are bots in this chat should get either swipe away by all means if it offends you, and there are no bots in this chat. I'm not exactly very bot attractive. Now, I like big bots, and I cannot lie, but they don't usually show up here. Another philosophical question, says Shogun, does Isaac's test suspend the ethical while Christ's sacrifice redefines it as love? Well, first of all, I don't know enough about Christ's sacrifice because I'm not, as a term to discuss philosophically, because I am not a Christian, I'm not a follower of Jesus, I don't know anything about the New Testament. I really don't know. And as for the question of ethics and morals, the patriarchs, each of their own pillar, right, left, right, and center, each of their own quality and divine attribute with which they are associated. If we're talking about philosophically speaking and not practically speaking, philosophically speaking, it does not suspend the ethical in the least. It embodies that idea of going all in on something. Abraham went all in from the moment he understood. Some say he was 3, some say he was 30, some say he was a different age. From the moment he understood there is one God, and I'm going to forsake the pagan household that I grew up in. I'm going to forsake the paganism and worship one God. And later on, when he got the call in his 70s to go forth and on an adventure to the land that he will be shown, and he ended up in Canaan. Abraham went all in when he got the call. Abraham went all in with the covenant between the parts. Abraham went all in when he said, all right, I'm going to do this now. This is the way forward. Abram the Hebrew. He's called Hebrew because one of the meanings and translations and interpretations of the word Ivri, Avram HaIvri, Abram the Hebrew, one of the interpretations of Ivri is that he's on one side and all of the world is on the other side, and he decided to do his thing. Echad haya Avraham, it says in the prophets. One was Abraham, and I have made him into a multitude of nations. That idea, that solipsistic idea of going all in, it's just me, right? It's me against the world, so to speak. I told my woman when we married, it's now us against the world. Does it suspend the ethical? No, it does not, because when you take into account the philosophical idea that is embodied in Avram, later Abraham, the covenant of circumcision, that idea of going all in, it doesn't suspend the ethical. What we can learn from that is not to be unethical. What we can learn from that is not to be immoral. What we can learn from that is not to sacrifice children. The Torah does not condone that. What we can learn from that is sometimes you need to go all in until the very end. And through the discomfort, and through the pain, and through the struggle, through the strife, on the other side there is greatness. On the other side there is more than you know, more than you are. And Avraham was very much connected to the right pillar, which is the hand that's always open, the hand that's always giving, the chamsa, right? The loving kindness. Isaac, and binding Isaac, was him going to the left side. Was him going and binding that left side that Isaac embodies by becoming it, putting a knife to his 32-year-old son's throat on an altar that he constructed with wood that they carried and a torch that they had that they took with them. It's not a suspension of the ethical. I think it's there to teach us other things. But what do you people think? Let me know. I'm assuming, you mean with the binding of Isaac. I think that's what you meant. Let's continue. Scrolling down. Born. Okay, cool. Hello, I'm a righteous Gentile. All right, The Express. Good for you. It's good to be righteous. I hope to be righteous myself and to walk in ways of righteousness as well. I'm nowhere near it, but I hope each and every day, every thought, every word, every deed, a bit by bit, to be a little less wicked, a little less evil, a little less malevolent. How do people who practice Judaism feel about Buddhists in general, about their philosophy? I can't speak for all of Judaism. I'm a fan of Buddhism. I'm a fan of those 8 Noble Truths and the teachings of His Royal Highness Prince Siddhartha Gautama Buddha. Right? Buddha means enlightened one, or that's Bodhi. Right? Bodhi means enlightened one, and that idea of enlightenment in Judaism is very prominent. And the thing is that the brighter the light, the more all of the blemishes, down to the tiniest thing, can become apparent. That light of the Torah, the light of the commandments, the light of tshuva is twofold in the sense that it always puts these duties of moving forward ahead of you, and yet you can take comfort with that which you've already done as well. That idea of Buddhism, of waking up, of enlightening oneself, right? That idea of, like Buddha, right? Attaining nirvana, but then coming right down to the people and not staying there. To be in the nasty, stanky funk of the real world, and to still try and hold to those noble truths. That's something that is really, really unbelievable. And it's something I think to some degree that Buddhism and Judaism teaches, but I don't know enough about Buddhism. As for how do people who practice Judaism, you'd have to think there are people who consider themselves to be Jewish Buddhists or Buddhist Jews. Let's continue. Question that I haven't answered yet. Only new questions today, so hit me with new questions. Do you think that there's Helmholtz says, do you think? No, the answer, the slavery in Egypt, I've already done that. Already done that, not gonna do it. Let's continue. Hey, Mama Luigi is here. 37, that's right, thank you. 37-year-old son. Not 32, 37. Let's see. No, no, no. I think that sometimes you interrogate the scriptures to say what the text does not really say at all. Yes, could be. You could say it's reading between the lines, or you can say it's reading into it esoterically, but I don't abandon the plain, simple, in-your-face text either. The Torah can be read on several different levels, understood in certain on different levels, interpreted and carried out on different levels. And to wit, we now have no ritual worship of the temple. And yet the ways in which the ritual worship of the temple brought the union and the unity of the divine masculine and feminine presence, this can also be achieved to a great degree through the other commandments and through the way that we act in the world. And so what you can't achieve in one way, you can achieve in a different way. And it's part of that Edenic thing. And in Eden, there was no temple. In Eden, there were no Jews or Gentiles. In Eden, there was no religion. There was no altar. There was no ritual worship. And we are, each and every one of us, part of that soul, if you will, of Adam HaRishon, of Adam and of Eve, conceptually, philosophically. Let's continue. Scrolling down. Italic, how does Judaism handle sin by the individual? I already answered that. Sorry. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. What's your thoughts on the temple mentioned in the end of Ezekiel? Joe Kinsey. Well, I've mentioned it in the past, but not precisely that question. My thoughts? Well, some people say that that would be the measurements of the third temple. And I have no particular thoughts about it. I mean, I think it's a lovely way to end the book of Ezekiel, and the sages knew what they were doing when they ended the book of Ezekiel precisely like that. Ezekiel is very, very unique in the sense that he was one of the only ones who prophesied abroad, right? He was in Babylon. He was one of the 10,000 that were kicked out with Yechoniah, king of Judah. So my thoughts are, even if there is no third temple, and there doesn't have to be, the measurements mentioned of a temple, of a place of worship, you can look at it, like I said, practically, physically, materially, as the actual blueprints of the temple, as it were, and the measurements, and you can look at it esoterically, right? And you can look at it in the sense of what do those measurements represent, and what do the different sides represent. And all of this has meaning. None of which I know off the top of my head, because I never went into that particular chapter in Ezekiel and read the different esoteric teachings or even plain Zohar on those things. But I do know from the Zohar on, let's say, the tabernacle and the measurements of the things there and the different sides there, where things were placed there, that it all once again has to do with the blueprint of mankind in the image of God and the 10 sfirot, right, the divine revelations, the emanations of the Kabbalistic tree of life, and the coming together, right, of creation and the divine attributes, and the masculine and feminine divine presence and its unity. It's all working towards that. But I have no particular thoughts because I'm not knowledgeable enough. Why King David chose Solomon as successor? Because he told Bathsheba that it will be her progeny that will sit on the throne. That's why. That's why. It had to do with that union of David and Bathsheba. Now, David did not miss the mark with Bathsheba. She was supposed to be with him. But the way he went about it, that was missing the mark, with Uriah and everything that happened there. So I'm pretty sure he chose Solomon as his successor because he was, if I'm not mistaken, the firstborn, actually the secondborn. The first one died because of what he did. The first one died. And the second one was Shlomo, later named Yedidiah. King Solomon, who asked for wisdom, not for power, not for riches, not for control. He asked for wisdom to wisely and justly rule the people. And then he got it all. And of course, in his old age, he went a little bit astray. King David chose Solomon, I think, because of the union between him and Bathsheba. I think that would be it. Yo, buddy, did you get a haircut? No, it's just a bun. I just put it up in a bun. Brother, you speak to us all. Stay strong. Thank you for doing what you do in the face of ignorance. Well, again, not a question, but I appreciate the good vibes and the encouragement and the support and the positive vibration. Really, I do. Really, I do. S says the Pharisees and Sadducees were fighting about resurrection doctrine. What is your belief on this? And once again, I've answered this before. Let's keep going. This is gonna be a difficult one because I'm only answering new questions that I've never encountered, or at least ones that I have kind of encountered, maybe phrased differently and aiming a little differently. I'll do those too. In most, says Mike, if not all religions, you have bad spirits, and in each religion you ask God to get rid of those spirits. And it works for them. How is this if only one religion is real, only one should work? I mean, I haven't been exactly faced with this particular question ever, so okay, let's field it. Let's address it. First of all, primarily the bad spirits are inside of you. Yes, you have times when you could be possessed, or things of that nature, a spirit, a demon, some sort of something from the outside, let's say. The greater demons are within oneself. That's first of all. And I didn't say that only one religion is real. I think all religions are real to some degree. And I think that we are all going about it in different ways. In some things we hit the truth, and in some things we miss the mark. I think all religions have something to say regarding the nature of life in this world and how to better oneself. Questions of theology, questions of philosophy, questions of conduct and ethics and morality. I don't think only one religion is real. I think all religions are real and wrong at the same time. And I don't think that the Jewish religion is particularly more real or more right or more true than any other religion or faith. I simply think it's the right thing for me. It's real for me. It's my way. It's my path. Only one should work? Not necessarily. I don't think so. Even if only one religion is real, I don't think only one should work, because you can use the lies to tell truth, as in V for Vendetta, and other people have said it, but that's my go-to there. So yeah. Let's continue. Hey there, bro. I'm a Vedic practitioner. Would love to know about your thoughts. Have you studied those scriptures? So, Raging Lion. I have studied some of the Vedas and the Hindu texts. I have looked into a little bit of Ayurveda back when I was writing, right, the medicinal aspect of it. I think there is a lot of wisdom there. I won't say faith because I'm a Hebrew man and not a Hindu, but there's a lot of wisdom in the Vedas that I read, a lot of universal truths, if any such thing exists, right? I don't speak in absolutes, but those come pretty darn close, right? In the sense of the inner world and the outer world and the connection between them and the mirroring of them, the idea of the higher self, right, and of the Atman. So I'm very, very much a fan of the Vedas that I have read, but I'm not versed or knowledgeable in them, at all. Definitely not at all. Let's see. One religion is right, all others say else. What so? No, every religion cannot be right. I'm not sure what you mean, but okay. Let's see. HW says, yes, but you believe the things God said in the Jewish Torah, Talmud, and not in the Gospel Quran, right? That would lead me to believe you believe Judaism is more real than others. No, not at all. It's just not aimed at the Hebrew people. It's the word of God for the Christians. It's the word of God for the Muslims. It's not the word of God to the Hebrews. That's the entire difference. It could very well be that Muhammad received the Quran from the angel Gabriel. It could very well be that Christ, right, Jesus received revelation and that has nothing to do with me. Literally nothing to do with me. We have the Torah. The Torah says the covenant between Adonai and the Hebrews is unbreakable even when we break it. It remains unbreakable. We will always return to it. And so that would not lead you to believe that I think Judaism is more real or right. It's right for me. The New Testament is right for them. It's their New Testament. It's their testament. It's their covenant. It's not mine. The Quran is them submitting to Allah in the way that Muhammad and the Hadith, right, prescribed. Not me. That's not the place for me. It's not the tradition for me. It's not my way. Those are not my rules, not my commandments. I have my own. I have the Torah and the commandments that I received from my ancestors. Both of them, three of them are equally right in that respect. So no, I don't think that Judaism is more right or more real than any other religion. I think it's real for me, right for me. Let's continue. This is a monumentally ridiculous rationalization. Cut the nonsense, dude. You are indoctrinated. Really, how am I indoctrinated? I mean, yes, I grew up modern Orthodox in Jerusalem. Of course, I've been indoctrinated into the Orthodox religion. However, for some years now, I have not been keeping strict rabbinic law, and I've been maintaining a synthesis, right? Not just the Orthodox thesis of halacha, but a synthesis from my life, my experiences, other points of view, which means that even though I am indeed indoctrinated, and I admit that readily and freely, I still also have a couple of brain cells left up here. I mean, they might be dying, kind of hanging on to each other, but they're still there nonetheless. And which ridiculous rationalization is that? What was ridiculous about what I said? A question from my son, says Shogun. Which prophet would you want to spend an hour talking with if you had the chance? A very good question. Yonah. I'd want to talk to Jonah. I'd want to talk to Jonah because my mind immediately went to Moses. But again, there was only one Moses. He's the father of all prophets. He's the one in creation revelation, so to speak, in human form. And insofar as he was the image of God, the lawgiver in Moses, as Moses, right, corresponding to Da'at, the bridge between the higher 3 Sfirot and the lower 7 Sfirot. And there was only him, just him, received a unique revelation, a unique prophecy, a unique channel through which he prophesied. So I think I would want to speak to Jonah. And I mean, Jonah came right after Moses in my mind, and I don't know why. I really don't know why, in the sense that I could have picked so many others. But Jonah is the one that I would go to because he ran away from who he really was, because he ran away from duty, he ran away from responsibility. He received the prophecy and he said, I don't want to do this, and he ran away. And eventually, from the belly of the big fish, the prayer, right? The prayer that he prayed there is so lovely, so wonderful. It's relatively short, but it's also very powerful. And I think that whether as a Jonathan, that can be shortened into Jonah, I suppose, and I have done that a little in the past. My slam poetry name at the time was Jonah Brood, because I'm Jonah and I'm brooding. Jonah, I'd want to speak to Jonah. What about you people? What prophet would you want to spend an hour talking with? Mama says, I was reading about the Hebrew faith with a friend, and after one tangent led to another, we couldn't agree on whether you'd do a leg fart. You know that I would, but it's not a question that I haven't answered or addressed before. Sad that you believe this, says Captain Coke. Okay, very cool. Very cool. It's okay that it's sad. It really, really is okay. Alan, maze miata. Shalom, Mr. K. Ani Yonatan. Brachot, boker tov. Maze. This is the Hebrew Nazarite channel. דת, אמונה, רוח, פילוסופיה, פסיכולוגיה, נודים מבית השכי. נודים is farts. מה, מיסטר קיי, מי אתה? מה קורה איתך? Let's continue. I suggest you to read the Devil Bwagat Puranam, as you just mentioned the Divine Feminine, and I'd love more insights about your thoughts of the Divine Feminine, says Raging Lion. Well, let's put it this way. I've discussed the Divine Feminine at length, addressing different questions over the time. So hit me up in the DMs if you want. And each and every one of you, if you want, hit me up in the DMs. Hebrew Nazarite, look for my tree. X, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and I don't post much, but I'm there for the DMs. So if you want to have any longer discussions, a one-on-one, I'd go do that. Okay, let's continue. I hate my brother like how Judah hate his brother. Well, hate is not a great thing. Hate is not a good thing. Hate is not... you need to figure out why you hate. And if you know why you hate, can you do anything about it? I suppose that's the question that you need to ask yourself. And, brothers, sibling rivalry, it's a thing. I grew up with brothers. I'm raising brothers. Let's scroll down. Scrolling down, scrolling down, scrolling down, scrolling down. Guys, if all you want to do is spam Palestine shit and Islam, just bounce, what's the point? Yeah, hey man, Mr. K, hater's gonna hate, spammer's gonna spam, troller's gonna troll, Nazi's gonna nuts. That's simply the way it goes, but I ban nobody and I don't filter anybody. There are no mods here. I don't kick people out. That's a free-range chat here on the Hebrew Nazarite channel, coming at you live from Jerusalem. This morning, new questions only, so give me all you got. Mama says, a conversation I had about the Israel somehow turned into an argument over whether you do a leg fart. So now I'm curious. Again, that has been answered and addressed many times in the past. Wow, looking schnazzy today. Thanks, Hayden. Thank you, thank you. Nadine is here. Shalom, shalom. Hello to you. That's right. Shevav, Shamua, Natan. Natan? Have a shave, brother. No, I don't think so, but thank you. Why Hebrew and Arabic sound similar? Because they are sister languages. Hebrew, Aramaic, and Arabic share some very common threads. So they are called sister languages. That is why. I can literally do this all day. Isn't that a Captain America line? Who are the Luciferians? Well, I'm not Christian. I don't go with the Lucifer light bearer devil thing. So I have no idea who the Luciferians are. Presumably, maybe they are the ones who go in the path of Lucifer, or the ones who devil worship, or maybe Satanists. Not the same thing at all. I have no idea who the Luciferians are. I really don't know. Ty Phillips, Shalom, do you prefer Sephardic or Ashkenazi accent? I have no preference, but I suppose just audially, the Sephardic one. I think I have an audial preference, but not any true kind of preference for the Sephardic accent. Yeah, I think so. Love from India. Thanks, Divya. Much love back. Common threads, they are based on the exact same lies. All hail Christopher Hitchens. Oh, I love Hitchens. He is so good. Every now and then I'll pull up a YouTube compilation of people getting hitch slapped. It's something. It really is. He had a lovely way of speaking. He had that dry humor. He had that sardonic sort of grin. His brother is still his brother is still out there doing his thing. Yes, common threads. I'm not talking about, no, Aramaic, right? That comes from Aram. That's not based on the same lie. So if you're talking about Rich Ross, if you're talking about religion as a lie, I'll say, okay, but it's not exactly based on the same lie, not all three of them. Let's continue. Manishma, ever been to Australia? No, I've never been to Australia. No, never. Maybe I should. Maybe I should sometime. 747 says, are you Jewish? I've addressed that many times before. Chat, answer him, am I Jewish? Do Jews see the West as a continuation of Rome? Again, I've answered that before. You'll have to check out a different live stream or hit me with another question. You don't have your head in the sand, do you? Not right now, Jamie, but I definitely do. There are certain hills that I would die on. There are certain principles that I go by. There are certain flags I stuck in the ground. Things people say that I am very stiff-necked about, that I'm a fool, that I'm blind, that I'm willfully ignorant, and that I'm choosing to deny reality, about a few fundamental things. Let's continue. This is tough, says American Communist Party. Yes, it is indeed tough, but we are the tough gang. How do you feel about the Pen 15 situation? I do not know what the Pen 15 is, but since that's a new question, let's Google it. Let's Google the Pen 15 situation. What happened to Pen 15? Pen 15? No, that's a comedy on Hulu. Is that what you meant? I don't think that's what it is. I don't think that's what you meant. Let's continue. Pen 15. Pen 15. A school prank involving tricking someone into writing the word Pen 15, which, I see it, which is penis. Hey, Atan Kyle? No, wait, I'm sorry. Atani Kyle or Atani Kyle? I'm sorry, can you please be more specific about the Pen 15 penis situation? I really don't know which one you mean. Let's go. LMFAO, no way, he keeps saying it. Penis, 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 Pen 15, Pen 15. Yes, I keep saying it. What do you want me to do? Do you do weight training? Yes, I do. But I think I've addressed that before. Do you have donation baskets during Mass? I've never attended Mass. I am not a Christian or a Jesus follower. So I have no donation basket. This is the donation basket. Incidentally, everything that's donated to this channel after YouTube takes its cut goes to charities right here in Jerusalem that serve the entire population. So this is the donation basket, and this is the mass. It certainly is a mess. I don't know if it's a mass. Oh no, Unk getting trolled. Yes, I am indeed an Unk. What is ignorance, says Josh. What is ignorance? Plainly speaking, ignorance is not knowing. It can be not knowing a fact. It can be not knowing how to behave. It can be not knowing, not having situational awareness, even though you probably should, because some people simply are born that way, and that's fine. Ignorance is lack of knowledge, but ignorance is also willful ignorance, let's say, right? There's also willful ignorance, and that's sort of knowing that you ought to do or could do something and still not doing it because of whatever payoff you have or some secondary, whatever it is that's stopping you, whatever that is that's pushing you away, that's also a form of ignorance, because there are certain things in life that shine and sparkle before you and you say no. Speaking of Jonah and running away from one's duties and responsibilities, right? And Jonah running away to Tarshish, to Yaffo, right, to the shoreline. Incidentally, it's said that, no, let's not go there. So I'm thinking that is ignorance. It's plain lack of knowledge, but you cannot know, right? You can be ignorant, and that's a positive thing, because then you can ask a question and be less ignorant and know. Ignorance is also, they say ignorance is bliss. So not knowing has its bliss, and knowing that you don't know also has its bliss, right? All I know is that I know nothing. Right? Ladat et iha yedi'ah, to know the unknown, as the Tao Te Ching says, right? To know that which cannot be known. That is also a kind of ignorance. Let's see. Leviathan got Jonah. It says big fish. It says Dag Gadol. That's what it says. Big fish. Shalom. What is your opinion on communists? That they are communists who follow communism. That's my opinion on them. And I think I've addressed this before. I think it was you. And hi, Terminal. Terminal? Wait, hang on. I need to see the username. The username is TerminalMan2. Yes, I think you've asked this before, so I've already stated my opinion. What's your opinion on aliens? That they very well may exist. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say that Terra is the only planet that might sustain life of some kind. Life has, all kinds of shapes and forms and ways and varieties. So why shouldn't there be, on the multiplicity of multiverses that we inhabit, why wouldn't there be aliens? Why wouldn't there be extraterrestrials? Yom Tov, Mr. K. And he can't say, hey, you drove Mr. K away, people. He says, have a good day. I can't with this chat anymore. Peugeot, are you growing a beard because of the 13 fallopian tubes? Ha! The translation says fallopian tubes. The Hebrew says tzinorot shefa, channels of influence, channels of abundance. Well, first of all, it's a Hebrew tradition. Second of all, yes, the beard represents a certain divine revelation, and the hair of the Nazarite and a woman's hair, a man's hair, a king's hair represent a different type of revelation. That is why I grow my hair. That is why I grow my beard. So yes, because this is part of how certain divine revelations may be made manifest in the world. That is why I grow the beard, and that is why I grow the hair. Why not give it to poor? I do, Kunal. That's what these charitable organizations do. Let's continue. Oh, so good. You look sharp. Keep it up. Thanks, AA. I appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry. The chat just jumped. Hang on. All right. Nope, I can't. I don't know where I was. I'm just going to scroll down. Do women have rights in Judaism? Once again, I've addressed this many times. Thoughts on ancient Israel ritual cannabis use, as evidenced in Exodus and Tel Arad. OBYD. Well, there is the opinion that knebosem, cannabis, was one of the, it says knebosem, people equate it with cannabis. say that it was cannabis. Some people, anyway. That was one of the 11 spices in one of the 11 herbs of the temple's incense, right? The ktoret. The thoughts on the ancient ritual use of cannabis. Cannabis is a psychoactive plant. It's a psychedelic plant. It's here to bring us closer to ourselves, closer to each other, closer to the revelation of the Most High, if it is used properly, and a psychedelic, right? A mind-revealing thing that should be handled with care. It should be handled with caution. As I always say, respect the herb, respect the body, respect the mind, and thoughts. That is great. I'm very, very happy that cannabis was used. Hopefully it was used ritually, within measure, with discernment, with caution, right? With set and setting being paramount for every psychedelic experience. I have no doubt that cannabis would be of great use and is still of great use. The thing is that what I always say is that the bulk of a person's psychedelic experiences should come from within, from the inside and not from the outside. Whether it's synthetic or organic, any substance that you put into yourself, you should, by all means, use it if you want. Use it with caution, use it with care, use it with respect, but understand that then you need to integrate the psychedelic experience, and then you need to make it a part of you, and then you need to have yourself revealed to you in earnest, right? That's the idea. And if people want to just simply get high for the sake of getting high in religious ecstasy, that's okay too. So I have no problem with ritual use. I just think that it should be done with caution. Cannabis part of 11 herbs and spices. Yes, that's right. Not the Colonel's 11 herbs and spices. Is weed kosher? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Let's continue. This is insane. That's not a question, but yes, it is. Is Superman Jewish? Well, I don't think so, because isn't he from Krypton? Unless the Hebrews made camp on Krypton, no, he is not Jewish. No. But there is, in Mad Magazine, he was depicted, I think, as a Jew once or twice, as was Batman, who threw Robin a bat mitzvah, even though he's a boy. That's what it says. Why don't Jews try to convert others into Judaism? Well, this is somewhat new, S. Grill, because we don't believe that everybody should be Jewish. People should be free to do their own thing. We go with our path, our covenant, our Torah, our commandments. Other people go with their path and their holy books. What about heroin? I think heroin, I've never done it, but I think heroin taps into something so explosive that it should be used medicinally, if at all, and not recreationally. And I think that it's less psychedelic. I think it's more of a heroin. What does it spike? The serotonin system, the dopaminergic system. What it causes a spike with heroin. I don't remember, or maybe I'm thinking of cocaine. At any rate, there are some things that you maybe should not do even once. That might be one of them, but I don't know. Let's continue. Yes, medicinal heroin. Heroin was started off as a medicinal thing. That's what it was. Hang on a second, just to be sure that I'm not confusing it with a different drug. Let's Google medicinal heroin. Is a prescription drug used in specialized medical settings. So yes, it is currently still medicinal. But in the history of it also has to do. Yes, heroin first created in 1874, marketed as a commercial medicine in 1898. Yeah, so I was right. It does have a history of being medicinal, and it still has a present of being medicinal. So Rayado, yes, there is such a thing as medicinal heroin. Let's continue. New questions. Scrolling for new questions. Greetings from Tel Aviv. Hey, Ethan. Greetings. Shalom, shalom. Boker tov. Circumcision, says Gelis. I've addressed this many times before. The Pri'ah and the Milah and the Metzitza. Many times. Why aren't you building the third temple? I've addressed this many times. Beliefs on the afterlife, Fabio says. I've addressed it many times. Here we go. This is a good one. El Grande Amigo, the great friend, asks, why did Yod Hei Vav Hei share a consort with Baal Asherah? Okay, Yod Hei Vav Hei has its origins, if I'm not mistaken, in the local tribes here in Canaan and the Canaanite pantheon. When Israel, whether it was the exodus from Egypt, whether it was them simply banding together and worshiping one God, and Exodus from Egypt never happening, one way or another, what came about is that a collection of tribes local here in Israel, a collection of tribes decided to worship one Hebrew God, right? They were the people of the Hebrews, or some. The sons of Ever are many. The Hebrew people, the Jewish people, the Israeli people are part of that. And Yod He Vav He, the masculine presence, the name that is more closely associated with the right side, had indeed Asherah, which was the left side. And in that sense, they were partners in the pantheon, if I'm not mistaken. When the Hebrews decided to forsake all pagan gods and worship one Hebrew God, they took some elements from the Canaanite pantheon, likely from the Egyptian one as well, if they were there, and others that were here, and they kind of koshered them. They took names like El, they took names like Yod He Vav He, they took names like Elyon, and they said, yes, all of those were names of pagan gods, but now we are attributing them to divine revelations of one God. And so, in the same way that there's the god of war, the god of thunder, the goddess of love, right? God and love and thunder and war and love are now attributes and revelations of God, but they are not deities for the Hebrews in and of themselves, right? So, to share a consort with Baal, right, Asherah, you need to know more than I know about the Canaanite pantheon. So I cannot address it in that sense. But I will say that what happened was, Kabbalistically speaking, with the Tree of Life, this also has to do with the moon, and it has to do with the moon being diminished, right? On the fourth day of creation, they were created large, and then the moon was diminished, and that whole thing, it has to do with the fact that Malchut, right? The Sphira of kingship, of Malchut, or of kingdom rather, that it went from a higher to becoming lower, but in doing so, it is the one to which all life flows, and then there's that reversal of light from bottom to top. It's a very Kabbalistic thing, because these names bespeak certain divine elements. These names bespeak certain divine attributes and emanations in the world. And so, the name Yod He Vav He, which is the root name, even though there are higher names, that is a root name. In the very same way that there are things that are higher than the heart, and yet, right, the heart is not the highest part. There are parts that are higher. It represents a certain revelation, or the solar plexus, that is the actual root, right? That is the actual, right, the torso, and that is what Yod He Vav He pertains to regularly, the Sphira of Tiferet, the middle, representing the masculine, with the name Adonai, Aleph Daled Nun Yod, representing the divine feminine, which is why it's not that Asherah was taken out of the equation completely. Asherah as a foreign goddess was. To us, she became now a foreign goddess. And we must cut down the trees, destroy the altars, break the stone, right? Break the stones. That is what we are commanded to do, and that is what was actually done when Joshua and the army took over. So why did Yod He Vav He share a consort with Baal? That has to do with Canaan and the Canaanite gods, and I do not know, unfortunately. As for why was Yod He Vav He and Asherah and that thing, it was because they were partners, but then there was a sort of a change in the divine revelation, because now Asherah, right, is no longer the companion and the partner of Adonai, or of Yod He Vav He, rather. Now the divine feminine received a different role. I think that's it, and I didn't address it properly because I don't have enough knowledge in the Canaanite pantheon. Let's continue, scrolling down. Do you know who Ramsay Bolton is? No, I do not, Kunal. Who is Ramsay Bolton? Jerry said, if you all decided on the name Yahuwah, there's no such thing in the Hebrew, but okay, and he's not the Most High, what is the name of the Most High, meaning our Creator? What is his name? So that is the explicit name of God, and I've done live streams and shorts on the explicit name of God and the history of it, or and the traditions of it, and what it is now, or what it might be now. So you can look that up. Will you say happy birthday to my friend? Okay, clip this. Are you ready? Gabe Owners. Gay boners. Gay boners. There, I hope you clipped it. Cool. Happy birthday, Gabe. That's right. Tyler says you're still confused. Is there confusion? Likely. There are some things that I am more certain as one can be, but I'm not certain of anything, right? There are no absolutes. The only absolute is the Most High God. And I do not know God. All I know is divine revelation. Where were you on October 7th attacks? I was at home, and I did not know of the October 7th attacks until after the holiday because I do not watch the news, I don't turn on my phone, I don't have any radio. It was a Sabbath, and it was a holiday, and I abstain from all, screens and such on the holiday, so I did not know. I did not know. What I did know is that something was going down because I was walking Pinky. Miss you, Pink. I was walking Pinky in the morning, and then the air raid siren blared in Jerusalem, so I knew something was up. Let's continue. Have you read about the archons, good sir? No, I have not, cute 0W0 pumpkin. Cute pumpkin, I have not. What are the archons or archons? I'm curious. I didn't clip it, but thanks for the laugh, just for fun and laughs. Good, it's good to laugh. It's good to make fun. It's good, within measure and with discernment, but yes. Yes, indeed. Eliyahu says, thoughts on Tikkun Chatzot, Tikkun Le'ah and Tikkun Rachel, can Tikkun Le'ah be recited on Shabbat? Well, again, that has to do on whether or not you follow a Kabbalist for halacha, right? And halacha is very famously not ruled by the Zohar, and so it depends really on the halacha, right? And I haven't done Tikkun Chatzot enough to do that. But as far as I know, Tikkun Le'ah, isn't it only recited on Mondays and Thursdays? Or am I confusing that with Tikkun Rachel? Wait. Eze Tikkun Rak B'Sheni V'Chamishi. Hold on a second. No. Eze Tikkun Chatzot Rak B'Sheni V'Chamishi. One of them is, I don't recall offhand which one. Okay, so on Mondays and Thursdays you add Tikkun Rachel. Okay. Sababa. So, here's the thing. Tikkun Rachel is representative of Malchut. The Shabbat is representative of Malchut. And so, Tikkun Rachel is not said on Shabbat. Tikkun Le'ah, since it has to do with the higher feminine, and it has to do with Bina, and it has to do with that divine feminine force that is to be, so to speak, and it has to do with Olam Haba, and that is Shabbat, right? Yom Shekulo Shabbat u'menucha lechayei ha'olamim. Olam Haba is Bina. Shabbat is Me'ain Olam Haba, a taste of the world to come, a kind of preview of the world to come. That time of partaking of the fruit of the tree of life. So, thoughts on Tikkun Chatzot, for those who do it, it is a blessed thing, livkot al galut hashchina, right? And to wake up after the chitzonim are done, after the dinim are done, after the husks and the klipot have had their say in the first half of the night. And then we have the beginning, right, of Rachamim leading into Chesed, leading into the morning and into Abraham and into Shachris, right, into Shachrit. Tikkun Le'ah and Tikkun Rachel. They represent two, right, the higher feminine and the lower feminine. Tikkun Rachel is actually the Shechina, as it were, right? We have Shechina Ila'ah and Shechina Tata'ah, the higher feminine and the lower feminine, the higher dwelling and the lower dwelling. And that Shabbat is that higher dwelling in potential. Shabbat is that V'haya ora levana ki ora chama, that the light of the moon would be like the light of the sun like the 7 days of creation. So, can Tikkun Le'ah be recited on Shabbat? I think so, yes. I don't know if there's any halacha that states that you may not. I can think of why there would be a halacha that says that Rachel is only on Mondays and Thursdays, Ait Ratzon, times of goodwill, where different channels of divine revelation are open, and that whole mimata lema'ala, right, the reversal happening there. But Eliyahu, I'm not versed enough in the different tikkunim to give you a proper, or versed enough in halakha to give you to address it properly. What do you think? I'm curious. Scrolling down. Let's see. I was going to try to go to Israel at least next year. Hey, Silent Nine, that would be great. Drop by for a cup of tea, or we'll go out for a cup of tea, rather. Who and when are the other 11 tribes? So there were 10 tribes that were exiled. And there are two and a bit tribes that are the kingdom of Judah, right? The kingdom of Judah being Benjamin and Judah and parts of Levi. People may say the majority even of Levi. Who and when are the other 11 tribes? I don't know what 11 you mean, but if you mean the lost kingdom of Israel, the lost 10 tribes, there are certain groups of people who claim affiliation to different tribes of the lost 10 tribes, right? The tribe of Menashe, the tribe of Reuven, the tribe of Dan. I've heard different groups associating themselves with those tribes. As for when, what do you mean when? Why is Gomorrah? I don't know what you mean by when are the 12 tribes. Where? In Asia, in places like India. I've heard people say that Native Americans and people in the Americas, right, in the South and North and South and Central, who claim that they are, or they could be, affiliated with tribes of the kingdom of Israel that was exiled by Assyria. Do you listen to music? I've addressed this before, Uncle Jay. Let's keep going. New questions only today. New questions only. Google who Ramsay Bolton is. It's not a question, but all right, since I don't know who that is, let's go for it. Ramsay Bolton. Hang on, I was on Hebrew. Ramsay Bolton. Ramsay Bolton. Oh, it has to do with Game of Thrones. I don't know who that is. I never watched Game of Thrones. I never read the books. So I have no idea what you mean when you say that name. It doesn't have any association or connotation whatsoever. Is it true that God can't be explained? God just is. Well, Omar, if I could explain it, it would mean I would have to use terms and ideas and concepts that are conveyable with the human tongue to a human ear. And for comprehension to occur, I must use terms that are here in this life and in this world. Language, communication. It's narrow, but it's deep. And in that sense, God is unknowable, untouchable, unexplainable. There is no there is no getting to know God for me personally. Other people can say they know God, and that's fine. I know I will never know God, right? All I know is how God reveals himself to me. The divine attributes are what we cling to. The divine revelation is what we prepare that vessel for, as it were. So God just is? No, God's not that either, because if there is, that means there also isn't, and that is a duality. If it is a duality, if I can perceive it, if I can think of it, if I can explain it, if I can somehow conceptualize it or sense it with any one of my senses or any of my metaphysical or spiritual antenna, it is by definition not God, but a revelation of God. So I hope that addresses the question a little bit. Mother of all bullshit in world, says Farama Sultani. Yes, indeed, mother of all bullshit. That's me. Let's see. More questions that I haven't been asked. More questions I haven't been asked. Silent Nine says, what are the best hotel to stay at for 7 days in your opinion? I have no idea. I don't go to hotels. I barely ever travel. I told you, I'm a homebody. I don't travel ever. What is your opinion in the old, in the old city? I haven't stayed at hotels there. Maybe once. I've stayed with family there, but no, so I have no idea. I want to stay at either the Muslim quarter or the Jewish quarter. Okay, sorry, you'll have to go to someone else with that. I have no idea. Literally no idea. Shabbat Shalom is here. How you doing? Gutless coward, says Ben Anderson. I have a gut. It's right here. As for being a coward, yeah, whatever makes you feel better about yourself, Anderson. Let's continue. Where is the tribe of Naphtali? Again, I do not know. Maybe other people do know. Maybe there is a group of people in the world who associate themselves with the tribe of Naphtali. I do not know. Naphtali was one of the 10 tribes that was exiled. Do you like Jesus? Once again, a Trent. I've answered this many times in the past. Jamie says, why did Yahweh use Great Britain to compile a King James Bible and took it to the 4 corners of the earth and filled it with fruit Christianity, white Caucasians people? I don't know, ask a Christian. I have no idea why Great Britain compiled the King James Bible. I'm pretty sure that King James himself commissioned it because he wanted to honor the Bible, right? If I'm not mistaken, and give it that, the King James English. But I have no idea why. Ask a Christian. Ask a Christian. Trent says you muted yourself. I don't think I did. I don't think I did, but that's cool. Thank you for the answer on Tikkun Chatzot. I've gathered that according to Kabbalah, Tikkun Le'ah is appropriate for Shabbat. The halachic objection is the morning association. Yes, that's right. In the higher feminine, there is no morning, right? In the higher feminine, there is no din. Bina, the mother, the higher feminine, is well known to be the one where there is no din there. There is the potential for din, but there is no din in the Gimel Rishonot. There is no din. There is no judgment. There is no true left hand, left pillar. There are no klipot, right? Those pertain to Malchut, right? And Nukba de Tehoma Rabba, and those places, Bein Hashmashot, and that whole thing. So the halacha objection is the morning, precisely, because Shabbat is Me'ein Olam Haba, and because Tikkun Le'ah and Bina are aiming towards that Olam Haba, and there's a correspondence there. Because of that, there is no halachic prohibition against reading Tikkun Chatzot, because the Tza'ar al Galut HaShechina is Tikkun Rachel. They both are in that sense. But there is Galut HaShechina in the lower feminine, and there's Galut HaShechina in the higher feminine. The thing is that they say that when there is no unity between the Ze'er and Nukba, between Ben Vebat, the lower feminine and the lower masculine, then the relationship between the Re'im, between Chokhmah and Bina, Abba ve'ima, between the higher masculine and the higher feminine, is also affected because, again, the reversal, milemata lemala, the things that happen here affect the higher echelons of the 10 sfirot. Yeridat tzorech aliyah, right? Or hamitapech, that whole thing. In the very same idea that you take a bow back as much as you can, and then you make it go loose, and you pull it back, right? You pull it back. If you wanted it to get the highest, you would have to pull it all the way down in order for it to fly the highest. If you pulled it down only a little bit, it would just fall. But if you take things back and then let them go, of course, what goes up must come down. Gravity, sure. I'm giving you an idea of why the Shechina, Tata'ah, right? Of why the lower feminine, if you will, that is not yet the mother, that is still daughter, that's something that does not correspond to Shabbat as heavily as Bina itself, which is why Tikkun Rachel is only on certain days, Ait Ratzon, like Mondays and Thursdays, Tzar HaShechina. But Tikkun Le'ah is permissible on Shabbat, because it has to do with something that is higher than that. It has to do with Bina, it has to do with the mother. Within Bina, you have the Lamed Bet, you have the Chamishim Sha'arim, right? You have Chamishim Sha'arei Bina. And there are two ways to count them. You can count them in a way of 5 times 10, that's corresponding with its influence of Chokhmah and Keter. And you can count it as 7 times 7, 49. And so depending on through what lens you choose to view Bina, right? And when it comes to Shabbos and when it comes to Tikkun Le'ah, which is that higher Tikkun, which is the Chokhmah and Bina as well coming together, and that whole thing, and it does have to do with the lower masculine and the lower feminine coming together, that then allow the higher masculine and higher feminine to come together as well in unity. But the Galut HaShechina, Shechina Tata'ah, right? That whole Yerushalayim Shel Mata, Yerushalayim Shel Ma'ala. Yerushalayim Shel Ma'ala, the higher Jerusalem is already built, and yet until the lower Jerusalem is built up, then there is no entrance into the higher one. That whole thing. That's a Midrashic teaching, but it's also a Kabbalistic teaching, if I'm not mistaken. Let's continue. Ahmed says, your whole religion is all about trying to find loopholes around the law. That is not true, even a little. That's why you're no longer chosen. I never said that we were chosen. And God sent his final prophet outside of your people. Okay, for you, and you didn't ask a question, so I'm not going to address anything there other than what I already did, because I thought maybe it's leading up to a question. So is the Partzuf of Le'ah leaky to Yenika of Chitzonim? First of all, the Partzufim is something that I'm not knowledgeable on. I studied some Lurianic Kabbalah, but for 12 years or a little more, something like 12 years now, I am studying the Kabbalah of the Ramak. The Kabbalah of the Ramak has a different sort of approach to the 10 sfirot and seder ha'hishtalshelut, and right, the way things come down, and the partsufim were truly, truly developed in the Kabbalah of the Ari. And that has to do with tikkun, right? Olam ha-tikkun. But the Kabbalah of the Ramak has more to do with Olam ha-tohu. The Kabbalah of the Ramak does not have Shvirat HaKelim. The Kabbalah of the Ramak in Pardes Rimonim. Later in the Elima, it might actually speak of them. I don't know. He wrote Elima much later, and he does allude to them. But part of what the Kabbalah of the Ari did was introduce the Partsufim. And so when you're talking about the 12 Sfirot, and so when you're talking about the 10 Sfirot, and when you're talking about the different emanations, the first question you would ask is, which Partsuf are we talking about here? But when it comes to the Ramak, and more primarily Pardes Rimonim, that I've been reading for just about 12 years now. I've been studying it, incidentally, on Shabbat and not on weekdays. Shabbat and stuff, okay. If there is no din applicable at this level, then the answer is no. No, there is no yanika over the chitzonim in the kedusha. There is none. All that they have is the motar. All that they have is the excess, right? In the very same way that you eat an apple that is 100% food, right? And it is something that you set apart to eat, and in that sense it's holy. It's something that can sustain you physically and spiritually, and so in that sense it's holy. And still from that there is the excess, right, of the urine and the feces, that the juice of the apple, the meat of the apple, some of it becomes urine and feces. And that is what the chitzonim feed off of, right? Hamotarot, hamotar, hagi'ul, as they say, right? So there is no yanika of the chitzonim anywhere in the kedusha, anywhere. All they have to work with is what is in excess, as it were. All they have to work with are again, this has to do more with Eretz Yisrael, it has to do more with Bnei Israel, but it can be expanded further beyond that and extrapolated to creation as such, and where the chitzonim come in, as opposed to, right, and the different worlds, right? And like I mentioned, Dukba de Tehoma Rabbah, and where is the correspondence? But, definitely in Bina, definitely in the Gimel Rishonot, the din is potential. There is no din, right? Bina lo din, dinin mit'arin mina, right? Din comes from Bina, in the lower sense of Bina, in the way of the Vav K'tzavot and the Nukba, of Za'er and Nukba, not in the sense of Keter and Chochma. So Keter, Chochma, Bina are Gimel Rishonot, and there is no din there whatsoever. No din applicable at this level. That, generally speaking, whether you go with the Ari or whether you go with the Ramak, generally speaking, the Gimel Rishonot stand apart, so to speak, right? Not just as the roots of the three pillars, not just as Shorashim before the Avot and the Toladot, right? Consider it that the tree of life is a Segolta, and then a Segol and a Segol, right? And then Malchut, which has no light of its own. The idea of the Segolta, of Keter Chochma Bina, then having the two Segolim underneath it, of Chesed Gvura Tiferet Netzach Hod Yesod, there's something different about the Gimel Rishonot. There's something different about that Segolta. So in the Partzuf of Le'ah, there is no Yanika for the Chitzonim, generally and traditionally. Maybe some Kabbalists would disagree with me. Likely, I'm not a Kabbalist. I have no idea. Let's continue. Shalom, shalom, and good night. Hey, Mangus is here. How you doing, man? Justin asks, why does Genesis 1 have prose style almost like it's a poem? Do you think Genesis is all literal? No, I don't think it's literal. I think that I think parts of it might be read literally, but no, I don't think that it's literal. In that sense, how can there be a heavens, and how can there be a light, and how can there be earth and ground before there's a sun and a moon? That does not make sense. So no, it's not literal. It's a story, right? And it's archetypal. There's a lot of wisdom there, a lot of faith there. It has to do with the revelation of God as it pertains to the 10 Sfirot, as it pertains to the 7 lower Sfirot, right? The 6 days of the week are the masculine, right? And the Sabbath that never occurred, that has not occurred yet, the feminine, and that's all that it's about. So why is it almost in a style of a poem? Because this is something that pertains not simply of a story, this once happened. It's a poem because it's happening right now, and like a poem, it's supposed to get you something stirring inside of you. Something about it calls out to you. Something about it needs to resonate with you. It speaks of an emotion. It speaks of a reality that exists within you. We are still re-experiencing the story of creation throughout the entirety of the week, throughout our lives. The story of creation, and this is why Genesis is my favorite Torah portion. There's everything there in that first bit. There's everything there in that first verse. There's everything there in those first couple of chapters, in the two stories of creation, of the blueprint and then what actually happened. It's all there. History repeating itself. It's all a very cyclic nature. The Zayin Tachtonot, the seven lower sfirot, of which this world, right, is male and female, a duality, good and evil. So that's, I believe, why Genesis 1 has a prose style of almost like a poem, because there is something that is permanent about it in some ways, or not permanent. What's the word I'm looking for? It's on the tip of my schnoz. I don't remember what word, but okay. Let's continue. I've been reading Talmud. The Gemara is interesting. Yes, it very much is interesting. What is posit lions? Do you, the conservative, what position do I hold? I'm assuming you wanted to say the conservative or liberal positions. I'm conservative in some things and I'm liberal in other things insofar as halacha is concerned, but the different discussions in the Talmud, the different discussions in the Gemara, right, the majority opinion and the minority opinion, it's all there to say these are traditions that happened and halacha was made into X or Y or Z. But I think I go on a case-by-case basis when it comes to conservative or liberal positions in the Talmud. Let's continue. Who are Boaz and Ruth, and why are they important? Well, Boaz and Ruth appear in the scroll of Ruth. This was, at the time, traditionally of the judges. Ruth was a Moabite woman, which is why she was allowed to convert. The only ones who are not allowed to convert are Moabite men and Ammonite men. Women, Ammonites, and women, Moabites, evidently are allowed to convert. They're important because it is from their union that later came Oved, who gave birth to Yishai, who gave birth to David. That is why they are important. They are also important because the dialogue between them, when she shows up, right, and he's asleep, and she sleeps next to him, and he wakes up in the middle of the night, and there she is, and he says, Chai Adonai shichvi ad haboker. Shichvi ad haboker. The very short dialogue between them, and the fact that he gave her more sheaves, or a small sheaf, or a few, what would be the term? A few, of barley, was it? Seorim, I think, right? Vayamod la chamisha seorim, 5 pieces, and the term escapes me, of barley, stalks of barley. That all has great esoteric meaning. That all has practical meaning insofar as the word Chai and the word Adonai, right, and the divine revelation that they are actually attributed to, the fact that it's nighttime and he tells her lie until the morning. It has to do with faith. It has to do with that which comes later. It has to do with the fact that sometimes you need to hunker down and lie down and wait till morning. Chai Adonai shichvi ad haboker. That's why they're important, technically and practically, because later on from them, the line of David, right? David was born and the line of David was established. And second of all, because the dialogue between them and the relationship between them signifies great things esoterically, let's say. Let us continue. Zechariah says, reading about the Nazarite vow in the book of Numbers, and that it has an end point. Yes, there are 4 types of Nazarites. One of them is a Nazarite for a set period of time. I am a Samson Nazarite, and there is no end. My vow is for life. A Samson Nazarite is for life. I hope to go to my grave still under this vow. And nowadays, without a temple, all Nazarite vows are for life until the construction of a temple and the establishment of altars and proper priests. Let us continue. Doggy Style, says Shabbat Shalom. Yes, one of Snoop Dogg's better albums, I must say, and a lovely sex position, depending on the partner. Let us continue. Why is the line of David important? The line of David is important it's twofold. First of all, it's said that the final Messiah, no matter what Messiah kings will be anointed before, there is talk of a final Messiah of the house of Yishai and the line of David and the tribe of Judah. That's why the line of David is important, because it's said that it is from the seed of David that the final Messiah will arrive and usher in that paradigm shift, that creation phase 2, partaking of the fruit of the tree of life, right, eventually, and that it's through him that this will be facilitated. And Malchut, right, and Malchut, Nekevat Sovev Gavel, that idea of Malchut returning to its proper place over Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, and the moon to become like the sun, and the sun to shine as the 7 days of creation, not the 6 days, the 7 days. Shivat Yemei Bereshit. That's why the line of David is important in that sense. The line of David is important because it embodies the Sphira of Malchut, right? David represents kingship. David represents the kingdom. In that sense, it's also very important, even though kings can come and sit on the throne of Israel no matter what tribe they're from. If they are kosher Hebrew people, they can sit on the throne. If you made a vow, what do you feel about annulment of vows on Yom Kippur? That annulment of vows in any Hatarat Nedarim. You can do annulment of vows at any given time, at any given moment. You sit a few people in front of you and you read, what you're supposed to read, and they reply what they reply, and that is the annulment of a vow. Or you could go even higher and bring 10 people. Or you could go even higher and stand in front of a proper court, rabbinic court. But the annulment of vows of Kol Nidrei on Yom Kippur does not pertain to vows like the Nazarite vow. The Nazarite vow is only valid if your head and your heart and your mouth were all aligned. Meaning you said the words and you meant them, and there was intent and purpose behind them. Otherwise, it's not a proper vow. That is what it says in Hilchot Nazirut. That is what it says in the halachas of the Nazariteship and of vows, at least according to Rambam. Usually that's the case. Maybe some halachic rulers would disagree. How do I feel about the annulment of vows? That it's a very blessed thing, because sometimes you're in a jam or you're in a fix and you say something you don't mean, but then you can't do it. The annulment of vows is very, very great in the sense that the idea of a vow also has its roots, if I'm not mistaken, in Bina. And the annulment of the vow comes from Keter, from Harachamim Ha'elyonim, from the higher pillar, right? From the higher root of Keter before there is a duality. I might be mistaken. At any rate, the annulment of a vow has to do with the part of Bina that is of the Gimel Rishonot, that is of the three higher Sfirot, meaning that Bina is not Din, and that is where Din arises, but Bina itself is not Din. In the very same way, Neder has to do with Din in some ways, right? A vow has to do with Din. A vow, unlike an oath, a vow is when you take something on or prohibit yourself from something. It has to do with judgment. Unlike an oath, that has to do with lies and the truth. That's the main difference between an oath and a vow, a neder and a shvu'ah. Strike that, reverse it, shvu'ah and neder. The idea of being able to get to that higher part of Bina that corresponds to the Gimel Rishonot, and through the power of the higher motherly revelation, annul a vow, that is Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur corresponds to Bina. Yom Kippur corresponds to the world to come, or the coming world, right? It corresponds to the tree of life, higher life, not life as opposed to death, which is why it is a fast of jubilation. It's a fast of joy. Unlike the fast of Tisha B'Av, where the same restrictions and prohibitions apply, the fast of Yom Kippurim is my favorite day of the year. It's my favorite holiday. It's the most joyous one of two. The other one's coming up soon. It's my favorite holiday because of that, because it has to do with the Gimel Rishonot and the place where vows can be annulled. Did you play God of War series? No, but I've watched a couple of people play the first couple. So yeah. Let's continue. Hey, Gordo is here. Is there any kind of spiritual ecstasy of understanding in Judaism? For sure. Definitely there is. Whether it's spiritual ecstasy of understanding when you're reading the Talmud and you figure something out, or it has to do with the Kabbalistic texts, or the Midrash, right, the external teachings, or the Mishnah, the entire gamut of Torah has that potential of spiritual ecstasy of understanding, of aha moments, of epiphanies. Many times it's what not to do. Many times it informs you on what to stay away from. But definitely yes. Definitely yes. Oraita. Oraita means light, right? The light of understanding. Are there different sects of Judaism? If so, which is more logical? I will only address this because I have addressed the different sects of Judaism. Which is more logical? Logical, I have no idea. I wouldn't presume to know enough about all of the other sects in order to make a proper discernment logically. One could say that logic is far removed, and all religions and all sects of any religion are bereft of logic to begin with and from the onset. Weak-minded punk, weak-minded punk. Get Trent, that's not a question. DZ says, are the laws of the State of Israel based on the Torah and Jewish laws? In part. In part. They're also in part based on the British Mandate at the time, right? And on the British common law. To what extent? Not a ton, but some, right? We are a Jewish democratic state, in some ways more Jewish, in some ways more democratic. If it's a free country, to some degree it is, to a different degree it isn't. Then what's stopping it from applying the Torah? The fact that there will be no consensus. I don't think that you will be able, at least currently in the current climate, political and social, you wouldn't be able to have a consensus on applying the Torah across the board as the law and the constitution of the State of Israel, which is why the State of Israel has no constitution. And that's why the committees on the constitution in the Knesset have been bogged down with proceedings and procedures for many a year. Because of this, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Adil says, why are Hebrew Israel people named after tribe of Judah? Because the current people, right, in Israel, most of them, are the remnants of the kingdom of Judah. So it's not named after the tribe. It's named after the kingdom. Within that kingdom, there was also primarily the tribe of Judah. Adjacent to it was the tribe of Benjamin and parts of the tribe of Levi. And so that is why we are named Yehudim, because we come from Yehudah, Jews from Judea. That is what that is. Let's continue. Do you think that Jews from Israel look down on Jews from America? No, I don't. Why would they do that? That would be very self-defeating, not to mention foolish. Why would I look down on my brothers and sisters just because I came out of my mother's vagina here, whereas they came out of their mother's vagina there? What does it have to do with anything about anything? Truly, I ask. Who would think this? Can a non-Jew read the Torah? If so, should they? So I've addressed this before, not addressing it again. Only new questions today. Only new questions. Do you feel the Torah is more holy than the New Testament or the Quran? I haven't exactly been asked this before, so I'll address it. It's holy means set apart. That's what that means. That is the definition of holy, separate. And the Torah is separate for me. The Quran is separate for them. For them. The New Testament is separate and holy for them. That's it. They're holy texts. I don't see them as holy because I do not set them apart as such. I do not consecrate them as such. The things you set apart are the things that become holy to you. The things which you consecrate, put on some sort of a pedestal, that is what it literally means to make something holy, to set it apart. So, the Torah is set apart for the people of Israel, and the Christian Bible is set apart for followers of Jesus, and the Quran is set apart and is holy to the followers of Muhammad, and it's as simple as that. Don't turn into soap, says Uncle. I'm working on it. I'm working very hard on not turning into soap. Like what's his name in Deep Space Nine, right? The dude who can, the shapeshifter. I can turn into a bar of soap. If you want to know the Quran, better study the Tanakh. I'm not joking. Well, Josh, I might read the Quran, as I've said before, all in good time once there's peace here. Is there a difference between regular practicing Jewish people versus Orthodox Jews? There's a difference in the sense of maybe they are practicing, conservative Judaism, or Reconstructionist Judaism, or Reform Judaism, or Samaritan Judaism, or Karaite Judaism. Is there a difference? Yes. Orthodox Jews follow rabbinic Orthodox halacha. Other practicing Jews follow their own form of regulations and laws and customs and traditions. That's why. That's the difference. What about the kingdom of Israel? What happened to that? There was also this kingdom. Yes, it was exiled by the king of Assyria, or two kings in succession, they say, right? King Shalmaneser II, and was it Sancheriv? Sancheriv was not able to do it. Did he do it later? Either way, Shalmaneser II of Assyria is one of the kings that did it. Oh, who was the name of the other? What was the name of the other one? Tiglat-Pileser. Yes, Tiglat-Pileser and Shalmaneser. They were the two kings, if memory serves, they were the two kings of Assyria that exiled over a period of time the 10 tribes of the kingdom of Israel. That is what happened to them. They were exiled. Let's continue. Yap, 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 says Life of Chris. That's not a question. I can't address it. But yes, I am indeed a yapper. How do you feel about the story of Sodom and Gomorrah? Well, how am I supposed to feel about it? It's said that they were transgressing, which, unlike sinning and unlike wrongdoing, transgression is when you know your creator, you know what you're supposed to be doing, and you do it just for the sake of multiplying and propagating the negative forces, the dark side of the force in the world, right? You can think of them as the Sith. And Sith happens. This is true. But they needed to go. And even when they were going, and even then, there was a revelation of mercy. There was a revelation of Yod He Vav He, not of Elohim. A revelation of Yod He Vav He is what brought that brimstone and fire, right? Gofrit va'esh, sulfur and fire. So how do I feel about that story? I feel we can learn a lot about the character of Lot. I feel we can learn a lot about sacrifice. I feel we can learn a lot about what might happen, especially if you take into account the different midrashic teachings, the external teachings on the different things that would go on there and how the people of Sodom and Amorah conducted themselves. And if you read the different traditions on the type of people they were and what they did, even though you could say to some degree it's apparent just from the text of the Torah, definitely when you take into account the traditional external teachings of the Midrash on Sodom and Gomorrah and what happened there, you would see why it was the type of wickedness and the type of evil that had to be taken out. In the very same way that there was a type of wickedness and evil and malevolence that had to be taken out at the time of the flood. In the very same way that later on, Amalek, the people of Amalek, not just people who other people call Amalek, the actual nation of Amalek still signifies this evil that needs to be purged, right? That needs to be taken out of the equation, which is why Israel is commanded to eradicate the memory of Amalek from under the heavens. And there is that esoteric and spiritual meaning of that which is above the heavens, as it were. The divine revelation pertaining to Amalek being wicked or evil or malevolent or the antithesis of Israel, that's simply here in this world of knowledge of good and evil, right? Of a dichotomy, let's say, of good and evil, or a spectrum, but with two edges, with two. And up there, let's say, up there, there's so much room. Up there, where there is no duality, and Israel and Amalek are one, then Sodom and Gomorrah and Israel are one. See what I'm saying? It's only things that pertain here to this place, to this world, to this part of creation, where we are kicked out into a world of knowledge of good and evil, a world of duality. Is Sfirot a Jewish word? Yes, it is, Kunal. It can mean round. It can mean sefer. It can mean sipur. It can mean sfar. It can, in Pardes Rimonim, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero speaks of the different ways in which Sfirot or Sfira, right? The Sefer Yetzirah says, right? The Sefer Sfar v'Sipur, or Yatzar et Olamo, right? Sefer Yetzirah attributed incidentally to either our father Abraham or the sage Rabbi Akiva ben Yosef. Sefer Yetzirah speaks of the ways in which creation came into being, and the Sfirot, yes, it's not a Jewish word, it's a Hebrew word. So yes. How do you feel about goy farts? I'm a fan of flatulence. I think that if you feel one coming and you know it's going to be a silent but deadly, come on, extricate yourself from wherever you are, unless you're alone, and go do it somewhere else. But goy farts, much like yid farts, are welcome. Farts are good. Farts are healthy. Fart proudly, right? Who said that? Franklin? Fart proudly? Was it him? I think it was Franklin who had the essay Fart Proudly. Let's continue. White person with a tan. Not sure what you mean, but okay. Love this, says Jane. You explained this very well about the story of Sodom and Gomorrah in more ways than I have learned. Are you a past your figure? No, I'm just a simple dumbass here in the Middle East with a cup of coffee and, and a phone. That was amazing. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Let us continue. Incidentally, I'm not a sage, I'm not a preacher, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a rabbi, I'm not anything. I'm a learner, I'm a student. I'm here to have conversations, I'm here to engage in the exchange of ideas and discussions, not debates. I'm not here to have pissing contests, I'm not here to one-up you, I'm not here to prove why I'm right and you're wrong. I'm not here to say that I'm this and you're that. It's just having conversations, it's just this spontaneous dialogue that I adore so much. Incidentally, it's been almost 2 hours. A quick aside to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Those watching now, those watching later, shout out to the replay crew. It's every single time I come on here, it's such an honor, such a privilege, such a wondrous thing to have this, I don't take it for granted. I press go live and there's people here and there's 80 something people in the chat, 63 likes, people have contributed to the channel. Incidentally, what you contribute after YouTube takes its cut goes to charitable organizations here in Jerusalem that serve the entire population, East and West alike. 100% of what ends up in my bank account goes to charity. If you want to give in Jerusalem, give through this channel if you are so interested. And I'm very transparent, and I have receipts, and I post them, so it's all good, and it's all on the up and up. And yeah, I'm just here having conversations with people. You could be doing anything right now, literally anything, but you're here with me live, raw, unscripted, unfiltered, new questions only this morning. It's 10 minutes before 12 p.m., 10 minutes before noon. All right, let's continue. You might realize how smart he is. He can go. Man, I don't quite understand what you're saying, Josh. You'll have to rephrase. I'm ignorant. Explain it to me like I'm 5. Rephrase it, dumb it down a few shades, and I'll understand what you're saying better. Zionist, no thank you, says MLYS. All right, don't let the digital door hit your buns on the way out. It's a free internet, it's a free internet. Go do what you will. Is modern Hebrew very different to medieval and Moses' ancient Hebrew? No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's different, but not very different, and I'm sure that Moses and I can understand each other. So yeah. Let's continue. I've addressed Metzitza Bapeh many, countless times before. Hey, Tenebris is here. How you doing, man? Ethan Lover Ruby says Israel sucks. Yes, and we suck really, really well. I was typing at them about you. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. When do you go to church? Let's see, today's Monday. Never. I've never been to church, and I don't want to go into church. I have no need to go to a church, and so I've never been to church, and I don't think I ever will be. Russia stands with Israel. Thanks, Putin. Most appreciated. How can the Messiah that Jews are wanting for bring universal peace? How would he achieve something this grand? Have I addressed this before? Maybe indirectly? Let's go with it more directly. I don't know if it's ever been phrased just so let's address this. The final Messiah, there can be many Messiahs. Right now, people, not me, people are waiting on a king. I believe that Adonai is the king of Israel. We do not need a monarch. We do not need an anointed human being on the throne of Israel. We can bypass the middleman. Right? That's what I say. However, if there will be a consensus, and if there will be unity, and if the Messiah will be revealed, no matter what tribe he's from. I glitched, but I'm live now. Good. If there is somebody who the people are able to accept as king, give him the crown, anoint him with oil if needed, right, and accept his sovereignty and his authority, then that would mean that the Jews have come together. It means the people of Israel have come together, and we can actually arrive at a consensus on somebody who we can crown as king, which is just mind-boggling. As for the final Messiah who is set to bring this world peace, how will it be? It will be by virtue of simply Israel doing their own thing, right? The union of the masculine and feminine divine presence will bring the higher union of the higher masculine and the higher feminine presence, and from there, shalom, peace, flows, right? Like water from a bucket. That's simply gravity of its own accord. Gravity does its thing. As soon as you pass the tipping point, it flows freely to the lowest point possible, and from there again, right? The light from bottom to up. How can this be achieved? It will be achieved because we will be able to go back to an Edenic mindset. In Eden, there were no Jews and Gentiles. In Eden, there were no countries. There were no borders. There were no tongues or faiths or cultures or religions. In Eden, there was no temple. In Eden, there was no sacrifices. In Eden, there was humanity, nature, the divine revelation in a type of harmony, or perceived as harmonious from our point of view. That harmony can then come into existence once again once we bring these Edenic elements and pull them down into reality and elevate ourselves and all of creation around us to sort of meet it halfway, and this time earn our keep. And when we return to Eden as a unified human race to partake of the fruit of the tree of life, right, put under guard but never forbidden. The path to the tree of life was put under guard, but never forbidden, not before the expulsion nor after the expulsion. And we are awaiting to taste the fruit of the tree of life that is not life as opposed to death. That is life, singular, unlike knowledge of good and evil that is duality, that is dual. And so how can this be achieved? Because when we are able to recognize our own uniqueness and similarity as earthlings made in the image of God, and when we are able to overcome our differences, our weaknesses, as individuals, as collectives, as nations and countries and faiths and cultures and tongues, when we are able to recognize the divine nature of the human being, address each other as such, break down the borders, build common ground, right? Fill in the gaps between us and unify and rally under the banner of humanity as such, which is how we started in Eden. It's simply coming full circle. And so it won't be something unachievable. It won't be something impossible. It will simply be the natural course of the cyclic nature. We started off in Eden, we were kicked out, we're making our way back. Just like Israel personifies this in the sense that the covenant always exists, even when we break it. And we will always be making a comeback. In the very same way, humanity will be making its comeback. That is how something this grand can and will be achieved, in my estimation. Let's continue. What do you think about financial trading? Is it against Jew law? I don't think so. I mean, if you mean something illegal like insider trading, that might be against halacha. I don't know, but financial trading? I mean, you can think of a barter as a trade as well, and that's not forbidden. What is forbidden is for a Jew to charge another Jew interest. However, if you're partners in a business, and this is incidentally how the banks do it here in Israel, because you go into a partnership with the bank, and then halachically, there can be interest. It's what's called a heter iska. Is there a time you normally stream? No. I mean, for a while now, I've been streaming in the morning. Sometimes I'll stream at night, sometimes in the afternoon. God willing, if ever I do get sponsored or, some sort of a brand deal and I'm able to actually do this for a living, because right now, all the money that comes in from ads, super chats, super thanks, super stickers, all of that goes to charity. If somehow Adonai blesses me with this becoming a viable work and career as a YouTuber, not that I'm banking on it, it's YouTube for crying out loud, but if that ever does happen and I'm able to make that happen and other things come my way, and opportunity creates opportunity, then I will be taking any brand deals or sponsorships. I'll be contributing a tithe but keeping the rest, and then God willing, arriving at your question, I will have a normal time to stream each and every day, except for Shabbat, where I might do it at night and not in the morning because I don't use the computer on Shabbos. Why can't you treat Christians the way you want to be treated? It's Harry Otter says. I do. I don't know who you're talking about. But okay. Hey, Peter is here. I like the suit. Yeah, he actually wrote sweet. I like the suit. It makes you look way more better and more seriously. Bah! I did it on a whim. But no, don't take me seriously. Don't take me as better. Not in appearance or intellectually. I'm just another simple dumbass in the Middle East with a cup of coffee. Speaking of which, done. That was a good cup of coffee. All right. You look like a wizard or a magical Jew. If so, what's your spell? Take everybody's pennies or something else? Oh, there are no pennies here. I'm in Israel. But, no, I'm a wizard's apprentice. I'm not a wizard. And I'm not magical. I think humanity is magical. There is a magic to humanity, definitely. Toda Salam is here. What's the occasion of the suit? Nothing, I just felt like it. Just felt like it. Can I ask you what you think of Muslims honestly? I've done this many times before. Only new questions today. So you can ask, but I won't be addressing it. Feel free to refer to any of the 800 and something videos and streams that I have. What do you think Bibi? So think he win. No, I've spoken of Bibi. I'm gonna vote against him. Jackson Moon is here. He says, just an asshole. Incidentally, look forward to today, 2 p.m. I've scheduled I've scheduled a post. I think it was Jackson Moon, who said, eat shit, you hypocrite. So, yes, he thinks I'm an asshole and that I should eat shit, which makes sense because if shit comes out of the asshole, it makes sense that the asshole should eat shit, right? It makes sense. There's kind of a symbiosis there. So, yes, I am indeed an asshole. I have an asshole, but I try not to behave like an asshole. Right. And Jackson Moon, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your support. Let's continue. What time is it where you're from? Barry says it is 12 p.m. exactly. So, goeiemiddag to you. Good midday. Full circle, says Barry McCockiner. Well, you do, says Jackson Moon. All right, cool. I'm glad that I behave like an asshole. It's fun. What did Dennis Leary say? I'm an asshole, he's an asshole, what an asshole. I use public toilets and I piss on the seats and I walk around in the summertime saying, how about this heat? I'm an asshole, he's an asshole, what an asshole. I'm an asshole, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum. I dislike you a little less now that you'll say you'll vote against Netanyahu. Hey, well, that's great. I do want to vote against Netanyahu. We'll see if anybody is worthy of my vote after I haven't voted for about 20 years. Let us continue. Pete says, why do Jewish have the curly strands of hair on the sides of their heads? No disrespect. Well, I've addressed the peot before, so I won't do it again. But there is indeed a reason, practical and mosaic and esoteric alike. What is your gaming console of choice? I'm not a gamer. For the kids here, there's a PlayStation, is it 4? A PlayStation 4 here. They barely ever use it. I don't ever use it. You would most definitely not understand David's language, much less Moses's. Really? I'm pretty sure Hebrew is Hebrew, and obviously I'm a modern Hebrew speaker, but it's genuinely the very same Hebrew. The fact is that I can read the Bible. If they were using Paleo Hebrew letters to write, then I would not be able to read it, at least not as readily as regular Hebrew. But speech, most of modern day Hebrew is biblical Hebrew. Jewish Tarzan, oh, that's awesome, says Mr. Quad Game. How is your quad game? Let's continue. Tammy says, are you a Jew? Chat, answer her. Am I a Jew? Jane, can we discuss the Lord's plan for the Lord's second coming? Ask a Christian. I don't follow Jesus. I don't believe in Jesus. I believe he's a dead man. So you'll have to ask a Christian about any second coming because there's no such thing in the Hebrew faith. Was John Lennon Jewish? I don't think so. I don't think that he was. I don't think any of the Beatles were Jewish. Akeem Lewis, what would Israel do with God? I don't know what you mean by what would Israel do with God? Israel literally means those who wrestle with God, with El, and it has to do with the divine revelation that we struggle with. So I have no idea what you're talking about. What would Israel do with God? I really don't know what that means. Is humanity God's crown jewel? Creation's crown jewel, not God's crown jewel. Creation's crown jewel. That's how I would refer to it. That's how I would refer to it. Only the legends know that all religions are created by humans in it. I don't know. I do believe that religions were created by humans for humans. Muslims are the Amalekites. No, Muslims are traditionally part of the people of Ishmael, or at least Arabs in that sense. I know not all Arabs are Muslims, not all Muslims are Arabs, but there is some sort of an affiliation there to some degree between the kingdom of Ishmael, the house of Ishmael, son of Abraham, and the Muslims / the Arabs. And again, it's not the same thing, I know, but yes, but religions were created by people for people. And the organized religion facet of the Torah is the oral Torah, right? Because you could make a very good argument theologically, religiously, traditionally, that Moses received a unique divine revelation in the written Torah, but the oral traditions were supposed to continue, and those were given to the sages to contend with and to struggle with. I don't think you're helping Hebrews by doing this, says Andrew. I am not looking to help Hebrews. I'm looking to have conversations with people. I'm not here. I'm not a saver or savior of any kind. I don't know if you've got the wrong idea here or not, but I'm not supposed to be helping Hebrews. I can do that in many other ways. First of all, people have disagreed with you, generally speaking. Second of all, I'm not here to help Hebrews. I'm here to have conversations with people, Mr. Andrew O'Donnell. Hide behind your faith to do terrible things, says Jackson Moon. Yes, I'm hiding. Hiding in plain sight. Jackson, listen, I have sympathy for your bullshit. I do, right? I'm a bullshitter too. But maybe understand that I do not give two shits about what you have to say because you seem to be an arrogant, condescending, ad hominem spewing, hateful individual. Not to mention the negative vibration that you're putting out here. Now, by all means, stick around. I'm not going to ban you. I'm not going to put you in a timeout. I'm not going to filter you. I'll address the comments that you comment, right? At least until you give me any reason to, if you're dishonest and if you're disingenuous, then I will have to do something about it, but, and like cut off communication. But on my end, I'm totally here with you, Jackson Moon. I am an asshole. But I don't see. What is your end game, Jackson? What is your end game? Am I supposed to say, oh my God, this random person on the internet is right. I've been living a lie all this time. Oh no. When you probably are not from Israel and don't know jack shit about what goes on here. So, And there's no hate in my heart. I sympathize with your plight. You see a Hebrew man here and you just can't stand it. It burns the tip of your penis and it scalds the edge of your clitoris, but there it is. Does anybody in Israel care about the illegal occupation of the West Bank? So yes, I've addressed this many times before. Feel free to look it up. That's not a new question. Only new questions today in today's chat. How do you reconcile Judaism being monotheistic and the deification of rabbis? I don't reconcile deification of rabbis. Rabbis are not deities. If you worship a human being, that's literally foreign worship. That's literally not something that the Torah allows. That is how I reconcile it, by saying that the Torah does not condone deification of rabbis. You're not allowed to worship a rabbi as a god. He is a human being just like you. You can talk about understanding and wisdom and experience and revelation. You can talk about exaltation. You can talk about the soul, right, of a person and how much it shines through and how much is made manifest through the individual's conduct and speech and teachings and Torah. But Judaism is monotheistic because we worship the one Hebrew God. The rabbis and the sages and the rulers of halacha are the ones who carry out the oral traditions and who rule on these traditions and who discern between yes, no, right, wrong, yin, yang, positive, negative. This is halacha, this is not halacha, and it progresses and it evolves. And people who do deify rabbis, I don't go with that at all. I simply don't think that way. That is how I reconcile it for myself personally, because I don't deify any rabbis, nor have I ever deified rabbis. I've had the honor and the privilege and the great joy of studying alongside a few true masters over the years. And I never deified them. I revered them. They had a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom. They were teachers. They were masters. They were educators. But to put them on a pedestal of this is a God man, that's not a Hebrew thing. That is not the way to go. Let us continue. Slimy says, I'll subscribe because I hate no man and you seem chill. Yes, I have my moments. I have time when I'm less chill. I have times when I'm more chill. I try to be chill, right? Who is the biggest anti-Semite right now, says Adil. One individual? I have no idea. People, who do you think is the biggest anti-Semite right now? What about the Rambam, right? Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, Maimonides. What about him? He was a philosopher and a thinker and a halachic ruler. He wrote the Mishnah Torah and the Yad HaChazakah, which many people were not pleased with him doing that, but it was one of the most major codifications, right, of halacha. He was one of the Rishonim. He was a physician. He was a great thinker. He was very, very much into Aristotle. Aristotle or Socrates? Aristotle, I think. At any rate, they say that one of them did exist, one of them did not exist. Whatever. He was the fan of the Greek philosophers. Let's put it that way. What about the Rambam? Many people, the Yemenite people more so, go by the halacha of the Rambam, and others as well. And there are times when regular mainstream people go with the halacha of the Rambam, and there are times when they don't. And I, in my old channel, before YouTube removed it because of some targeted attack, I had a whole section on the Rambam, Hilchot Nezirut, the laws of the Nazariteship in the Rambam. So yes. Let us continue. Let us continue looking at new questions. What's your end game? My end game is prophecy. I think that's the end game for all humanity, right? We should all be prophets. To be a prophet means carving out your own unique channel of communication through which the spirit of prophecy, right? Creating a vessel through which the spirit of prophecy can flow. And I believe that we were all made to be prophets. I believe that God will pour his spirit upon all flesh. Everything shall be elevated. But if it starts with individuals, so be it. The spirit of prophecy was taken away from the children of Israel and given to children and fools at the time of the beginning of the Second Temple era. That is the tradition. But the spirit of prophecy is poised to make a comeback. And I would love to be a prophet in the sense of to open up that channel of communication, not in the sense of telling people what to do. I know, I'm telling you, I'm leading you. No, not that type of a prophet. But to open up that channel of prophecy that is uniquely mine, just like you out there, people, have one that is uniquely yours. Part of manifesting that image of God in which you individually are created means also carving out the unique channel of communication that pertains to you, to your soul, to your being, to your essence. And part of why the maxim is know thyself, it is because of that. When you know yourself truly, you will be able to also carve out that unique connection between yourself and your creator. And should it come to pass that it's manifested in prophecy, that would be a great thing. And we are all, as I said, meant to be prophets. That is my end game. But beyond that idea of prophecy, my end game is to be the best me that I can be, no more, no less. And to go to my grave and to be put into the cold, cold ground. And that's that. But to live such a life that is worthy, to live a life of significance to the best of my ability, and I'm lacking at that, I'm falling short of the ideal, I'm missing the mark every single day, right? To make no mistake. But that is indeed my end game, to be the best me that I can be and greater, no more, no less, right? And to overcome my weaknesses, to overcome my shortcomings, to overcome my faults and frailty, and to fortify myself, right? And to dig deep and know myself to such a degree that I would be able to manifest myself from the inside out. Too many words feels like deceit. Okay, it can feel however you want. It can feel whatever, whatever you want to feel, you can feel. Hey, Dexter was here. Shalom ובוקר טוב ידידי הנכבד. דומני שכעת אני יכול לומר בביטחון כי התקדמותי בלימוד העברית הייתה ניכרת למדי. Well, הייתה is in the past. He. You can even dispense with the he, right? התקדמותי, אני יכול לומר, present. התקדמותי, present, ניכרת למדי, without the הייתה or without the he. But you can add the he ניכרת. But no, the proper one would be לימוד העברית ניכרת למדי. That is really, really great. Good for you. How long have you been growing your dreadlocks? I've addressed this before. Only new questions this morning. So at the end times, we're going to be friends. Satan and God will all be united. It's not even a question of united. It's a question of that the dark side of the force and the adversarial element, much like death itself that came into the world in Eden, will be taken out of creation completely. It came into the world in Eden, it came into creation in Eden, and it will be lifted out in Eden, and we partake of the fruit of the tree of life as a singularity. That is the true meaning of the phrase afterlife. It's not what happens after you die. It's what happens after you live. And the true life, not life as opposed to death, not womb to tomb, the true life is one that has no death. The true life is the one that we were meant to be in to begin with, the Edenic Sabbath that has not yet taken place. The partaking of the fruit of the tree of life is true life. Right now it's simply life as opposed to death. Right now it's good as opposed to evil. Right now it's a duality, a dichotomy, a spectrum. The singularity with which the tree of life is associated. Breaking down into the 10 sfirot, to be sure. But in the end times, Satan, the adversarial element, would be taken out of the equation completely. And we would come to the place where there is no duality, there is only the root, there is only the point, where all is one, just like it was in Eden, or just like there was the potential of being in Eden. Let's continue. People talking about Gaza, I've spoken of it thousands of times before. Feel free to look up any other stream. It comes up every 2 seconds. Thoughts on Rabbi Mizrahi, Lucius Vaughn, good to see you again. I've addressed this as well. Prophecy exists within. Yes, I agree, voices of the orchard. I agree. But we need to stir it, right? We need to feed it and water it. We need to cultivate it, and then it will bloom. I agree. The potential of prophecy does exist within. You need to discover that channel that exists within yourself. You need to carve it out from that which has been filled with gook, so to speak, and you need to clean it out. It's calming, these complex words and things. It brings me more into my mind. Well, that's part of what this is here for, right? We are here to establish a discussion, a discourse, a back and forth, an exchange of ideas. And forget complex words. That's, it's not about complex words. It's about sharing ideas very plainly and very simply. You waiting for your boyfriend, ain't ya? Well, he should be here any second now. Do I look okay? All right. Do you know The Alchemist? So I know the book. It's not Paulo Coelho, right? The Alchemist is Paulo Coelho. That's the book, The Alchemist. I read it years ago. I need to reread it. I read it many years ago. Maybe it was because I read it somewhat hastily. I believe, look, the association I have with Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist is one where it didn't speak to me. I need to revisit that book. Great book, he says. Okay. Is there any Freemasons in Israel? I would think so, but I have no idea. I don't know of any specific lodge. I do not know. Maybe. Likely. But I have no idea. Shadow King says, duality is beautiful, good and bad, up and down. Until we reach the singularity, one should know evil, not to wield, but to understand. Yes, that's right. You should be at least aware of it. Do not be naive. I agree. Dodging the question, what an asshole. Listen, man, I'm not dodging any questions if they're new, but I'm thinking a hateful, bigoted, racist dumbass like yourself, and once again, I have the deepest sympathy as a fellow dumbass. You're saying I'm dodging a question, what an asshole, when I specifically said only new questions today, and I don't know, I have a feeling that I already received hateful questions before. I don't know why I would think that, but something rings a bell about the way that you are communicating and with your rhetoric. Maybe I've heard it once or twice before, so feel free to call me an asshole. Or you actually do the work, you hypocrite, and go check out any of the over 800 videos on my channel. Palestine comes up every 2 seconds, and I've addressed it many a time. So if you want to call me an asshole, by all means do. You want to throw these ad hominems as if they mean anything, go for it. Whatever helps you feel better about yourself, boobala. You're dressed like you are going to a funeral, says Matt Bach. Hi, Matt. Good to see you again. I am not going to a funeral. I stay away from funerals, even though the Samson Nazarite is allowed to come into contact with dead bodies, with corpses. I abstain from funerals, and I abstain from cemeteries, and so on. Slimy says, I'm going to bed. Shalom, shalom to you. Have a good night. Okay. Let us continue. Robbie says, learning perspectives, being open-minded is hard, even if they still sternly disagree. Nearing the end, the more you know. Yeah, I agree. It's something that can be hard. For sure. Do you have a mirror? I believe I do, yes. In fact, there's one right here that I'm looking into. אתה בחור נחמד וחביב, אבל חייב להסתפר. אילן צרפתי, כפרה עליך, אני נזיר שמשון, נזירים לא מסתפרים. נזירים עבריים לא מסתפרים. Hebrew Nazarites do not cut their hair. אבל תודה. I appreciate it. Thank you. אילן צרפתי. I've never seen a real one, says Har. A real what? It's Harry says, learning about a bunch of lies from religion. Why should I tolerate this? Nobody is asking you to tolerate it, good sir. Swipe away, scroll away, do whatever the heck you want. Anything, literally, swipe away right now. We're discussing spirituality and faith and religion and self-development, ideas that having to do with whatever you throw my way. And if it's not something that you want to partake of, it's all good. Nobody's forcing you to be here. Swipe away. Shalom uvracha, blessings and peace. Don't listen to any bad talk. You're doing great. I think you look very nice. Blessings. Thank you, Colleen. I appreciate that a great deal. Why, for your daily dose of McCuck? Mikey Pissboy. I love the name Pissboy. Why, for your daily dose of McCuck? I don't know what that means. I really, really don't. Amish? No, I'm not Amish. Why do you not go to funerals and cemeteries? Because I am a Samson Nazarite, and even though the Samson Nazarite is allowed, right, Tumat Met is something that is allowed, defilement of human death is allowed, I simply choose to sanctify life and to do more with the living. So I abstain from funerals and cemeteries and such. Lama im efshar ladat, why am I a Nazarite? Kibalti et hakri'ah? I got the call. I got the call to take the Nazarite vow, and after long and hard consideration, so to speak, I answered that call. אילן צרפתי, קיבלתי את הקריאה לנזירות ונדרתי נזירות לפני 16 שנה. והנזיר לא מסתפר. The Nazarite does not cut his hair because of what the hair of the Nazarite represents, right? Nezer Elohav al rosho. Do Nazarites drink alcohol? I've addressed this before. Only new questions. לא כתבתי בעברית כבר שנים, איך זה? מעולה. Run upon me. It's great. Very good Hebrew. Gross, says Bliss Road Media. Yes, I am gross. Hang on a second. Now that's gross. Okay. Let us continue. Oh, whoops. Did the chat just jump? I think. Okay. William says, I am your friend. I am learning a lot about your environment and experiences. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Joe Matter says, what is absolute truth? There are no absolutes. The only absolute, as far as I'm concerned, is the Most High God. As far as I'm concerned, there are no absolutes. If you don't believe in reward and punishment, I do believe in reward and punishment, but I believe that is a duality. And a duality has to do with a dual nature of existence, whereas absolute truth touches on the higher point of the middle pillar before the split into the duality, right? Absoluteness has to do with keter. Truth has to do with tiferet, right? With that which breaks apart. So, right, truth can be bent, so to speak. And in that sense, it's not an absolute. And the only absolute that I relate to is the Most High God. And I don't know God. All I know is how God reveals himself to me. So I do not know of any absolutes. I think there's a lot of relativity. And yeah, sure, you can make philosophical arguments, on the sense of subjective and objective and moral relativism, right, and things of that nature. But generally speaking, the only absolute that I relate to as such is the Most High God, and I do not know it. What is the procedure for becoming a Nazarite? A man or woman who is of age who take a vow. That's it. That's the procedure. Take a vow. The thing is that you need to have your mind and your heart and your speech aligned. There are no absolute truths, Jamie, says Raul. So a while back on the stream, there was the discussion of my truth versus your truth, right? Absolute truth, like lived experience, and how you derive wisdom and truth from it. But even though it could be tainted with ego, we had a whole back and forth in the live stream. Must have been a couple of months ago. But it was very, very educational and informative. Have you been to the cave of the patriarchs? Yes, I have been to Me'arat HaMachpelah in Hebron, but I haven't been there in many, many years, nor do I want to go back there right now. Do you know what an archloch or arschloch is? I do not. What is it, scholar? What is an arschloch or arschloch? I don't know what that is. But yes, I have been. I have been to the to Me'arat HaMachpelah. I have been to the cave of the patriarchs. Mutar lachem leitchaten? Yes. The Nazarite very many times is, because it's Nazir, is said, people talk about monks, like Buddhist monks and Christian monks and friars, right, and nuns, and they do not marry, or at least the Christian ones, right? They take a vow of abstinence and poverty and obedience. Ken, Nazirim mitchatnim. בהחלט מותר לנו להתחתן. אין מצווה בתורה שהיא נגד חתונה. אין. פרו ורבו, המצווה הראשונה. Right? Be fruitful and multiply. על כן יעזוב איש את אביו ואת אמו ודבק באשתו והיו לבשר אחד. Therefore a man should leave his mother and his father, cleave to his woman, and they become one flesh. I have been married for 23 years, Ilan Tsarfati. I met her at 16 and I married her at 20. Voices says, do you believe all are made in the image of God? If yes, why is God evil? God is not evil. There is a revelation of God that can be perceived as evil, and that which needs to be burned away, the excess, the bile, right? In the very same way that in the process of digestion, there is the bile and the negative things that are created there as a result of digestion and discernment and breaking things into their constituent elements and nourishing and sustaining the physical body. In the very same way, this world is a world of duality, a world of good and evil, and there's digestion going on here, and there's discernment going on here. And that is why evil is a thing, but it is in this world, a world of knowledge of good and evil. It's a world of duality. It does not exist in the higher realms, just as din is not din, right? Judgment, the divine judgment does not exist in the higher realms, in the Gimel Rishonot. Thank you. Until 120, says Ilan Tsarfati. Let's see. Adil says, you have a lot of liberal views away from Orthodox old rabbis from the past. Yes, I grew up modern Orthodox in Jerusalem, but I have since gone off of the Orthodox path and on my path, despite all of the detriments that lie therein. Hey, Silver Scrapper is here. Hey, the Takina is here, or Trina. I liked getting that message from you. That was nice. She said that I make her laugh when I mispronounce her name as Trina. So thank you, the Trina 15. Why does it say that God creates all good and evil? That part's always made me wonder why we're so good at jumping to judge what we deem as good and bad. Yes, it's a matter of perception. In the very same way, what I just said basically, right? That this is a world of digestion. It's the lower world. What's your real name? Hornet says, Jonathan, that's my name. Although I've addressed that before. I should not have answered that. Only new questions this time. Honestly, what are your thoughts on settlers? I've mentioned this before. I've addressed the settlers many, many times. You'll have to peruse a different stream. My opinion on Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi and Yaron Reuven, I've addressed that too in the past, Adil. Only new questions. What is your political affiliation? I have none. Give me a scenario and I'll address it. I'm not politically affiliated or inclined in any such way. Your views are so distorted, you even corrupt others, says Scholar. Okay, my views are distorted compared on what you would consider to be straight and orthodox. That is correct. How am I corrupting others? The things that I say are anchored in Torah. The things that I say are anchored in halacha. The things that I say are anchored in midrash. In what way am I corrupting others? If you want to say that my views are distorted, feel free. I'm not asking them to be your views. You keep doing whatever the hell it is that you do, and it's all good. But you're saying that I'm corrupting others. How? I never claimed this to be the be-all, end-all of the Hebrew faith or of halacha. I tell people the Orthodox path is a wonderful path, a blessed path, a welcomed path, and that it's a good thing. But I simply no longer follow strict halacha. So how am I corrupting people? I would love to know. This guy is very sick, says Matt Bach. Yes, sure I am. Don't let the last corruption question gaslight you. Let's make some pizza. No, nothing will gaslight me. I know that I'm not corrupting anybody because I'm not here to teach anybody, right? I'm not here to impart any sort of knowledge from a place of authority or greater knowledge. I'm here having discussions with people. And if it's my view, I say it's my view. If it's my opinion, I say it's my opinion. If it's anchored in ancient texts, I say that it's anchored in ancient texts. So I don't understand where the confusion would be and the corruption would be. I really, really don't. Let's continue. Do you believe the Old Testament happened literally. So once again, I've addressed this in the past, only new questions. Because we have to follow strict halacha, you know it deep down in your heart. Well, again, you can think that, and I don't have anything against strict halacha for others. I no longer keep strict halacha. I do not rule out keeping strict halacha again in the future. Kala kevachamura. But deep down in my heart, you do not know my heart. Also, yes, we do need to follow strict halacha, but not halacha that has been stagnated, not halacha that the chain of smicha has been broken, right? Not halacha as it pertains to us now, that is not proper halacha. It isn't. We don't have a Sanhedrin, we don't have smicha, we don't have a way to annul all of the takanot and gzerot and chumrot. That is not halacha. No, it is not. It's what halacha has become. It's arba amot shel halacha. It's the 4 cubits of halacha, like it says in Masechet Brachot. It is not proper halacha. To wit, Mishnah and Gemara and Talmud were written down. They were never meant to be written down. It's supposed to be Torah shebe'al peh. Which means that, however you want to splice it, we are not precisely halachically speaking where we are set to be according to halacha. The Techina says, do you think we'd be better off if the whole world spoke the same language or worse off? Well, it does say, is it in Yeshayahu? I don't remember which prophet, that the world will speak one language. And one of my fellow students, or was it one of the teachers, in yeshiva said it will be music. Music will unify us all. Heichal HaNigun, right? The hall of music is near the Heichal of Tshuva, of repentance, of returning. I know Babel happened, but times have evolved since, so I'm genuinely curious to hear your thoughts. Well, look, there was the attempt to make Esperanto a thing as an earthly language that everybody speaks. Would we be worse off? I think that there will come a time where, like it says in the prophecy, everybody will have one language with which to call on each other and on the Most High God. One language, right? That new covenant, that new heaven, that new earth, as it were. Times have evolved, and maybe we should give it another shot. I do not know. I know that communication can be achieved, and most communication is nonverbal, right? Communication can be achieved in a multitude of ways, in a whole plethora of ways. Would we be better or worse off? I do not know. Babel happened, but times have evolved. Exactly right. Exactly right. But I don't know what would happen right now. It's worth a shot, let's put it that way. It's definitely worth a shot. That sounds awesome. I feel like we'd be so much better off if we all talked telepathically. Yeah, that's part of the next thing, you know what I'm saying? That's part of the next thing. How does the 10 Commandments apply to today when no one seems to be following thou shalt not ill? What does that mean, thou shalt not kill? It doesn't say thou shalt not kill. It says thou shalt not murder. It says lo tirtzach. It doesn't say lo taharog. That's a mistranslation. The word 10 Commandments is also a mistranslation because it's called Aseret HaDvarim or Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 sayings or the 10 utterances. It does not say the 10 Commandments in Hebrew. It does not say thou shalt not kill in Hebrew. Those are mistranslations. That's how they apply. That's how. Because the Shabbos applies, honoring your mother and your father applies, not taking the name of God in vain in an oath applies, having no other God before the Hebrew God applies, right? Many of the 10 Commandments, if not all of them, apply each and every one of them in this day and age. Okay. I'm going to go soon. Scholar says, לפני מי אתה עתיד ליתן דין וחשבון? Yes, מאין באת מטיפה סרוחה. ולאן אתה הולך? למקום רימה ותולעה. למקום עפר רימה ותולעה. ובפני מי אתה עתיד ליתן דין וחשבון? לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Yes, indeed, I will be accountable before Adonai. I will be. And God willing, I will be ready. And you're going to come at me for not being a rabbinic, orthodox, halacha-keeping Jew to the furthest and strictest extent? You're not me. Nor have you been through my experiences. Nor have you lived my life. So while I appreciate the gesture, and while I appreciate the rebuke, and I do, because I understand it's coming from a good place, that place of rebuke, that place of tochecha, it does have a place, which is why I don't rule out keeping strict halacha again in the future. But, okay, by all means, you want to judge me, scholar Mainliger, by all means judge me. You want to rebuke me? Rebuke me. You want to say that I'm corrupting others? You go right ahead and do that. You've done nothing, nothing that you have put forth has actually validated that claim. You didn't bring any evidence to how I'm corrupting others. I never claim to be representing Judaism. I never claim to be representing halacha. I never claim to represent the Torah. So what you're saying is mistaken and ill-informed. But as for me having distorted views, yes, they are distorted in the sense that they are not the straight, narrow path of strict halacha. But that's just me. I'm not telling other people to follow my example. I'm telling people to do their own thing. Okay. Your name speaks otherwise. No, you are wrong, lots of hats. I'm a Hebrew man because that's what I feel more affinity with, the name Hebrew, as opposed to the name Jew, as opposed to Israeli, as opposed to, as opposed to any other, right? Jew, Israeli, Hebrew is a lot more all-encompassing as far as I'm concerned. Nazarite I took the vow of a Samson Nazarite. I am literally a Hebrew Nazarite. It doesn't mean I am the only Hebrew Nazarite. I know a few others here, Orthodox rabbis, incidentally. So what? What does that mean? My name speaks otherwise? Really? You think that the Nazarite simply says that I know better, or that I'm a rabbi, or a teacher, or an educator, or a scholar? It means no such thing. It simply means that I'm a Hebrew man who took a vow. That's what this is. Very simply, very plainly, that's what this is. Silver says, it appears you're wearing a suit. How are we supposed to get leg farts if you're wearing slacks? Yes, I am wearing slacks. And no leg farts today. It's been done, and I will do it again in the future, but not today. Hebrew is a language, LOL. Yes, it is a language. It's also a concept. It says Avram the Hebrew, Avram ha'ivri. That means sons of Evel, which is a people. And it means conceptually being on one side where everyone else is on the other side, just like he went all in with his divine calling. So Hebrew is a language. You may LOL at that. Feel free to laugh out loud as much as you want. But Hebrew is a lot of other things too. It's a concept, it's an idea, and it's a people, right? And it's well, I said what I said. Let's continue. Thoughts on South Sudan. Ugh, that not enough people are paying attention to the ongoing violence there. They're so preoccupied with Israel. They're so preoccupied with Netanyahu. They're so preoccupied, and, fair enough. But please, pay some attention to all of the other horrors. UN, other people who claim to be on the right side of history. Come on now. If you have time to demonstrate against Israel, you'll have time to demonstrate against the militant forces that are actually killing thousands and thousands of people there. What's going on there is abhorrent, and it's terrible. Ugh. Those are my thoughts on South Sudan. May there be peace. May there be peace. אני בסדר בכתיבה בעברית, אבל הייתי שמח ללמוד גם לדבר, זה פשוט נשמע כי... Not sure what you mean. But yes, he says, I'm fine with writing. I would love to learn to speak. It just sounds like... Okay. Let us continue. The news propaganda, says William. I agree, the news is propaganda. Is Syria still at war? Well, as far as I know, the leadership was toppled, right? The Assad regime was... there might still be fighting and conflict between the different factions, but the civil war, if I'm not mistaken, the civil war is over. Maybe there's still ongoing I'm sure Syria is still peppered with conflict between the different factions, but it's no longer at the great civil war between the Assad regime and the opposing militants. In that sense, yes. Is there internal strife between who should be on the throne? Maybe, likely. But I don't know. Let's continue. Let us continue. What does your faith say happen when you pass on? So, Joe Matters, I've addressed this many times, only new questions today. What's your opinion on Pixar Cars? I haven't seen the movie. There are a few of them, I'm sure, at this point. I haven't seen the movie Cars. I have no idea. Pixar did some really great things at the time, but Cars is not something that I've seen. I've heard you mention the Amalekites a few times in the past. Are these not one of the old Jewish enemies that were wiped out? No, they were not wiped out. And was Haman the Agagite the last leader? So he wasn't a leader. He was the minister of the ministers in the kingdom of Persia under Xerxes, Achashverosh. Or some say that it was, anyway, the king of Persia, right? Paras and Madai. In the Persian Empire, he was the minister of the ministers, the high minister. According to the scroll of Esther, he was not the leader. He did not rule. As for Aman being of the seed of Agag, and Agag being the king of Amalek, yes, that is what it is said, that he was of the seed of Agag, the king of Amalek, and that he was an Amalekite. But the people of Amalek, it's no longer known who they are actually. They were not wiped out, right? Joshua did not wipe them out in the wilderness. Saul, King Shaul, did not wipe them out at the behest of Shmuel and of the divine revelation. That is partly why he lost the kingdom and the crown to David, because he did not fulfill it to the entirety, the commandment to eradicate the memory of Amalek from under the heavens. So Amalek has not been wiped out completely. We do not know who they are nowadays. People use the term Amalek pejoratively and insult others and libel others and say that they are worthy of death and deserving of death by calling them Amalekites. But the Amalek people, nobody knows who they are now. God willing, we will not know, because then the commandment won't need to come to pass, and I'm not interested in another war against another people. That is the last thing we need. I'm interested at coming at that place where Amalek and Israel are one, at the root, where there is no good and evil, there is no thesis and antithesis. There is just that singularity, that point above the heavens where Amalek and Israel are one. So that's what I have to say about that. Donkey says, I'm a new subscriber. Thank you for the vote of confidence. You mentioned that your parents were from the U.S. Where did their parent and parentage come from before they were in the U.S.? Their parents came from the U.S. too. Their parents, the great-grandparents, I believe, came from Eastern Europe. But before that, they were here. The ancestors of their ancestors of their ancestors came from right here where I am sitting, here in Zion, here in Jerusalem. So yeah. So my ancestors came from Judea. They were kicked out into Europe, made the pilgrimage to the States, as it were, and back to Judea, back to Zion. He's a Nazarite Olam? No, that is not true. A Nazir Olam and a Nazir Shimshon are not the same thing. Fred, there's no end to that prick. No, there is no end. No, I'm not a Nazir Olam, I'm a Nazir Shimshon. What are the Jewish beliefs on the angel Memtet? That he is Chanoch, right? Chanoch, who received angelic garments, Chanoch, son of Yered, who ascended without dying, and he took off his earthly garments, and he received angelic garments, or you could think of it as it be added on to his human garments, as it were, replacing them de facto, but when he comes here and visits, then he clothes himself in the garments of this world, in the garments in which he lived. Those are the beliefs, right? He is called Sar HaPanim, right? He is one of the highest angels. He is the angel in charge, as it were, of the 6 days of creation, of nature here in the world. He is the revelation of the divine of Tiferet. He is called Katan. He is called Eved, right? He is called the smaller one. He is called slave, meaning he has a master. His name, right? Shmo Keshem Rabo. But he is a very high angel because he was human. That is why he was able to be the highest angel. Human beings are higher than angels. The soul of a human being is higher than the angel Kabbalistically. We have free will. They do not have free will. They come from Yetzirah. We come from Bri'ah. There's a whole hierarchy there of divine revelation, and we are higher up in the hierarchy of influence, in the hierarchy of emanation, the soul of the individual. And so, there is a part of humanity that is also should have dominion over the demonic forces and the angelic forces, the different messengers of the Most High God in the left and the right, the positive and the negative. And in that sense, we are greater than all the angels. Metatron, Memtet, is able to be the highest angel because he was a human. That is the general belief on the angel Memtet. Let us continue. There's no such thing as angels, said Fred. Well, it's not a question, and I've addressed it in the past, so okay, you're free to think that. That's fine. Why do the Israelis allow secularism in Israel? Because we are a Jewish democratic state. Some parts are more Jewish, some parts are more democratic. The part that allows secularism, as it were, is the more democratic part of Israel. The part of the part of the state, for instance, that has laws regarding the Sabbath and Passover is the more Jewish, as an example. Is Megatron an angel? No, I believe Megatron is the leader of the Decepticons. More than meets the eye. Let us continue. Let's look for new questions here. New questions. Is there usury in Israel? Usury? I remember the term, but I don't quite know what it means. Usury is the illegal or unethical act of lending money at unacceptably high, exorbitant, or unlawful. Yes, criminals. Criminals will lend you money, and then the gray market of lending and borrowing. Of course, there is usury in Israel. I think it's against the law. But does it exist? Of course it exists. I'm sure it exists. May I have a song request? Yes, Angel Bassett, you may. I don't have an instrument to play it on, other than my vocals. So go for it, and maybe I'll hum a few bars if I know the song. Let us continue. Are you not allowed to mention the name? No, you're allowed to mention the name, but mentioning the name of an angel is sort of invoking that divine revelation that is embodied in the angel. And so if I'm not actually meaning to speak the name and to call the angel, even though it's allowed, sometimes it's better not to. And I believe this is one of the times where it's better not to, because I don't have the meaning behind me calling the name is not for me to call forth that essence that is memtet. And there's something about speaking things into existence, right? And when you speak something like the divine revelation of speech brought forth creation, we are made in the image of God. We are co-creators in the very same way to mind your speech. So I try not to say names of angels other than ones that are very, very, very common and that are actually given names, right? First names. Those are a little different. Can sing Hava... Well, what? Wait, hang on. What? Can sing Hava Nagila. Yes, I can. Hava Nagila, Hava Nagila, Hava Nagila v'nismecha, Hava neranena, Hava neranena, Hava neranena v'nismecha, Oru achim belev sameach. Awaken, brothers, with a joyful heart. Whom do you pray to? To the Hebrew God, Hampshire. To the Hebrew God. It makes more sense that Messiah is light. The light of Messiah, says Peugeot. What will a Messiah do? Will he take us by the ears to Jerusalem? A Messiah is a messenger. He will live and die like all the kings before him. He will live and die like all the kings before him. And what is said is that there will be a final Messiah who will bring about the great shift, right? And usher us into creation phase 2. But a king is a ruler. He's a messenger. He's a servant. And he dies. That's what Mashiach will do. How old are you now? I'm 43. Oh, I've addressed this in the past as well, Techina. So I should not have answered you, but I did. I'm 43. Why are Jewish people so funny? Said Fred. There are different ideas on what makes Jews funny. Yeah. But you tell me. You tell me. I think it's because, like, what's his face says in Training Day, smiles and cries. That's what it's about. And so, you know what? We have a lot of both. Might as well laugh and smile. Who is your final Messiah? The Messiah of the house of David, of the tribe of Judah, the line of Yishai. Are you afraid of death? CTG says, no, I'm pretty much ready to go. I still haven't lived to the extent that I would like, but I'm not afraid of death. No, I mean, the idea of dying doesn't at all... Right? What do we say? Vatischak leyom acharon, right? There is that idea of being jubilant and with mirth on the final day. So I'm not afraid of death. Wish to live to 1,000? No. I wish to live a full life. I wish to live a fulfilling life. I wish to live a meaningful life, a life of substance, a life of significance. But everything that lives dies. I wish to be free of this meat suit eventually. And that is partly why when righteous people die, there is a hilulah, right? Because it's also, remember what Elisha asked Elijah before he was taken away, right? Vihina pishnayim beruchacha elai. When a person is taken away, there is a great release of energy in the very same way that when an atom is split, there is a great release of energy. When the neshama, when the soul parts from the body, right? The nefesh ruach neshama, when it parts from the body, there's a great burst of energy, and there's a great thing there. So very much akin to a nuclear explosion. Let us continue. A couple more, and then I'll say goodbye. Questions. Do people of all religions and of none go to the same heaven? So again, many times I've spoken of heaven before and the idea of heaven in the Hebrew faith and in the Torah, so I'm not going to address it now. New questions only. Yes, I'm picking questions carefully. That's right, lots of hats, only new questions. Because if you want to have all other questions, I have over 800 videos and streams on the channel. So go and pick one and you'll find answers to the questions, because I get a lot of the same questions all the time, and I'm very patient to answer them or address them. To address them to the best of my ability. Let us continue. Do you realize that after you die... Oh, wait, sorry. It just went away. I think. Okay. How will you know it's the Messiah when he comes? Well, he will be the king. That is how we know. The anointed one will be anointed, and the king will be crowned. That's it. That's how we will know, because he will be the one who will be chosen to lead the people of Israel. He'll be given the throne, offered the throne. He will be anointed if need be, and given the crown of the kingship of Israel. That is how. There are many potential messiahs, even right now at this very moment, all around us, here and abroad. Do we merit the revelation of the king? Do we merit the return of the king? That is the only question. And so we need to work hard, and we need to merit it. We need to do what we are meant to do. We here need to carry out the Torah and the commandments in such a way as to facilitate that time and place and circumstances through which the king can be revealed and accepted by the people. We need unity. Unity. That is how you will know. Now, there are the criteria of a Messiah as brought down in the book Yad HaChazakah by Maimonides, a leader who fights the wars of Israel and vanquishes its enemies, a leader who brings people back to Torah, a leader who goes after the seed of Amalek, a leader who starts to build the temple. That is a definite contender for the throne of the king. That's what Maimonides says. Okay. Oh, there it is here. Zero the Hero says, do you realize after we all die, our body is going to rot and our bodies will be eaten by small animals? Does that sadden you? No, it's just I go back to nature. The natural part of me goes back to nature, and the spiritual part of me goes back to wherever it came from. And later on, there will be the resurrection when we eat from the fruit of the tree of life. That is true resurrection. That is resurrection without death. That's when death is taken away. So yes, of course, I will be eaten by worms. I will be eaten by maggots. I will be eaten by beetles. I will be eaten by all kinds of things. But that's not me. That's just the body that I was inhabiting. Likewise, it could very well be that the part of me, what's called the nefesh, right? That spiritual part of me that remains in the bones, as it were, Kabbalistically speaking, maybe I will live a life so righteous. I don't see it happening right now because I'm not a righteous man. But maybe somehow I'll be able to overcome my screw-ups, and I'll live a life so righteous that the rot will not, that I will feel no suffering in the nefesh of my bones when the body rots and is eaten by small animals. It does not sadden me in the least. I come from the earth. I have the element of earth inside of me among the other elements. And the element of earth goes back to the earth. That is its nature. And I am an animal, right? I'm a mammal. That's what I am. Everything that lives dies. The body is holy. Yes, it is. We set the body apart, and it is indeed holy, and the flesh can be made holy. We can set certain parts of us apart in the way that we speak, in the way that we dress, in the way that we eat, in the way that we act in the world. What is it we do with our bodies, and why, and how? These are things that literally make the body holy and set it apart for service of oneself, for service of others, for service of the Most High God, whatever it may be. So the body is indeed holy, but there are different facets to the body. There's the part of the body that we set apart. There's the part of the body that is a natural thing like any other mammal, right? Let us continue. One more, and then I'll go. Hey, Troiki is here. Hello, hello. No one says Toda. This lots of hats guy is just saying shit. Okay, well, okay, you're between, you're having a thing between him and you. That's cool. I still don't see a question. Let's try scrolling up. Who gave the information? I'm not sure what you mean, the information. Well, I'm assuming you're talking up to the other dude in the chat. Let's see. Wait, did you know about the saints that didn't decay after dying? Yes, we don't see them as saints in the Christian sense or in the Catholic sense, but yes, tzaddikim b'mitatam kuim chayim. The righteous in death are called living because of the Torah that they spread and because of the life that they led. There is the idea of the true tzaddikim and the true righteous that do not rot and do not decay and are preserved because they separated themselves so much and to such a degree did they sanctify their physical being that they were able to set their body apart even in death. And that there is no decay, there's no rot, there's no rigor mortis, and the animals and the worms and the maggots do not eat them, right? Or whatever it is, right? So yes, on that happy note of worms and maggots and dirt, there will come a time when I exhale my last breath. There will come a time when I do not take an inhale. There will come a time when my body goes back to the earth. God willing, by that point, I would have lived a long and joyful life, a life of meaning and significance, God willing, a life where I would have been, it's worth it that I had lived it. And maybe I will be such a righteous person that no rot and no decay and no rigor mortis will touch the body, nor will any maggot or worm or other small creature. Time will tell. Time will tell. On that note, be blessed, be a blessing to others. It has been such a privilege and a pleasure and an honor to share these 3 hours with you this morning, live from Jerusalem. I don't take it for granted. Really, I don't, that you're here with me. We're having conversations. We're having a back and forth. We're having a discussion. I love the trollers. I love the naysayers. I love the Nazis. Okay, I love the spammers. I love the insulters and the vitriol slingers. I love the lovers and the encouragers. And I love the good questions and the new questions that were addressed today. And the likes, the subs, the views, the chats, the comments, the DMs. If you want to hit me up in the DMs, do so. Hebrew Nazarite across the board. Look for my tree. Hit me up if you want to have any discussions in the DMs. I'm always up for it when I have the time. This has been such a wonderful live stream. A quick prayer for peace, righteousness, justice, humility, and unity among all creation. Specifically among the human race, the human family, the earthlings made in the image of God, that is us. May we be able to overcome our differences. May we be able to bridge our gaps. May we be able to overcome our weaknesses and our shortcomings, individually and as a collective humanity. May we be able to live life in such a way where we will be unified and we would be able to rally under the banner of the Most High God and lead the way back to the path to the tree of life in Eden, this time because we merited it. Because we brought Eden into existence with our virtue and our good and righteous and humble conduct. May it be so. And as long as I'm praying on things that might be, may death and war and corruption and terrorism and bloodshed, may it be lifted out of creation even right now as I am speaking these words. May we know times of peace and love all over creation. May knowledge of the Most High cover all creation like the water covers the seabed. May it be so. Until tomorrow, or maybe tonight, I don't know, whenever the next live stream is, thank you for being here. Your participation is deeply appreciated. Your contributions to the channel are deeply appreciated. They all go to charity here in Jerusalem. Wow. All right. L'chaim, to life.